Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Welcome back. I hope that your week has been absolutely outstanding, and we're grateful that you're here ready to dig into a great live stream ahead. We got a bunch of stuff planned. We've got some Comey discovery stuff, FBI lawsuits. We've got rapid response from them coming after conservatives all over the place. We'll talk about that. And then a Charlie Kirk update, because we've been covering this situation where the prosecutors and the defense have been playing this game where they want to lock down the trial. And in Utah, they have this closure hearing process that they have to go through before they can actually lock the rest of us out of the proceedings. And so the judge just issued an order on that. We're going to get into it and see what is going on. But quick preview on the day. It's a lovely Friday. We always like to see what the president is up to over the weekend. And you can see he's going down to Florida. You can see today's Friday. Not much going on today at the White House. President departing, going down to Palm Beach, Florida, arriving there this evening. We'll be spending the weekend at Mar-a-Lago. No public events on Saturday scheduled. Then flying back to the White House on Sunday. So pretty light schedule. Little, planning and restoration happening down there in Florida. No doubt about it. Then we'll start the week back strong. But that's what the president is up to. But before we get into the meat and potatoes, quick preview. Lots of headlines around this email from James Comey, who is currently being prosecuted. And we got a bunch of updates on this. We've got documents that have been filed out the wazoo. In this case, you can see from the DOJ, bunch of stuff came skidding in yesterday from the prosecutors' motion to dismiss the indictment, a response for a disclosure about grand jury materials, a response to James Comey's attempt to get a bill of particulars. And so a bunch of good stuff happening here. We'll hit the highlights, and there is some juiciness inside. It's not just standard, motions. There's some good stuff in there, including this email and a full explanation for what's going on. So we'll go through all that, see what the latest is. Then we got to talk about this FBI account. Yesterday, as we were sitting down for the show, we saw this post that just came out from this brand new account called FBI Rapid Response. And we all were scratching our heads going, okay, who are they going to be responding to? Well, right out of the gate, they came out swinging against Tucker Carlson and Miranda Devine. And they've already gotten community noted on this stuff. Miranda Devine came out and said, this is pathetic, because it is. And then they started dunking on her and saying stuff about maybe if she cared about facts or something, get used to it. Go, what the hell is going on over there at the FBI? This is ridiculous. These are people who've been doing very good work, and I'm pretty agitated to see that they're swinging at them at the same time that we have the Democrats talking about Trump having Thanksgiving with Epstein. Where are you guys posting about that stuff? Anyways, we're going to come back to that. I might lose it a little bit, but we'll come through it and talk about what the latest is, because they're already getting dunked on. There are clips from Dan Bongino asking the same questions that Tucker Carlson is asking. And so now they're getting dunked on it, rightfully so. And Tucker Carlson just came out today with a new Thomas Matthew Crooks analysis. And so we're piecing together what this new account is doing, because apparently they're not answering the real questions that we want answered. So we'll talk about that. Then we've also got, as we saw yesterday, Cash's girlfriend is now suing 3 conservative influencers for posts on the internet. And we've got all 3 of those lawsuits now queued up. I saw one originally against Schaefer, Elijah Schaefer, and now we've got the others pulled up. There was this one against Kyle Seraphin in the J6 pipe bomber story, and Sam Parker, another individual, and they're being sued in multiple different jurisdictions. And so we'll talk about the lawsuits and see what's going on in there. Of course, I don't want people to be defamed, but is this person being defamed? We'll go through and see what the latest is. Is she a public figure? Is the fact that Cash Patel is posting about her endorsing the fact that she's a public figure and that there's an actual malice standard? And now we've got questions about what Cash is doing. So the FBI is on one, and we're going to talk about that. So that's coming up. Of course, we've got reaction to some of that from the people who are being sued. And then we'll compare and contrast some other lawsuits just like this. If Alexis Wilkins wants to do this, then that's fine. She puts herself in the category of Hunter Biden and others who've also filed defamation complaints against them and tried to chill public speech. So we'll go through that. Of course, the standard is very high. Even Sarah Palin lost her defamation lawsuit. And so we're not too concerned for these, 3 influencers, other than the fact that they've got to spend a bunch of money and time and effort, and it chills the speech out there when people are allowed to speculate about whatever they want. This is America. Even if you think it's a little bit inappropriate, we're allowed to do it. God bless America. So we'll talk about that. Then we got the Charlie Kirk case that had a couple of interesting filings that I wanted to share with you today. We had the defense for Tyler James Robinson come out and explain that they want this case pretty well locked down, and the judge just issued a new order. There's this process in Utah that's called a closure hearing. We're working towards a closure hearing. And so the media, as we talked about, I think last week, they were coming screeching in here saying, hey, you guys are doing stuff behind the scenes, off the record. We know you're having meetings. We know you're talking about these things, and you're not notifying any of us. That's in violation of Utah law. We want to have a hearing on this before you lock this down. And the judge came back down and issued an order on that. So we have an amazing stream ahead, and we're very glad that you're here. Before we get into the business on the day, we've got a sponsor today, and this is a great product, and I have it and use it. It's called the Chef IQ, and you can grab yours. There's a QR code right here. We'll throw it on your screen, but let me just show you how it works. Okay, so this is called the Chef IQ, and what it does is it's got these little prongs, and you can open up these prongs, and you shove this right into your meats, whatever you want to cook. Okay, this is ceramic here at the end. It's not plastic. And so it does a really good job. You can see you put it in your filet, you put it in your turkey, shove it right in whatever meat you want to cook. And then it communicates with an app on your phone, and it tells you exactly how to cook it. It's very cool, actually. And what this thing will do, this little base station, is it will alert you what you need to do, literally. So we were cooking fillets the other day, and you shove it in there, and it just says, okay, it will alert you. Flip your food. Then you flip your food. Take your food off. Then you take your food off. And you put it off, and you can watch the temperature rise, right? So you take your food off early. You want to tent it in some foil with, let the meats just kind of continue to cook. And you can watch the temperature just go right up while it's sitting on your kitchen counter. It's, oh, perfect, right where I like it. Medium, perfect. And then pull the prongs out and eat it. So Thanksgiving is coming up. I think this is a great gift for the holidays, and it really is cool. It's actually worked. We've used it several times. It's very cool. Metal, ceramic, not going to, melt on your grill. And so grab it, chefiq.com. You got the QR code right on your screen. We appreciate them supporting us. Buy one for your mama or your father. They'll love it. All right. So we appreciate you supporting our sponsors today too. And check out the link in the description to go grab it. It's a cool product. I'm just like, this is pretty cool. And the app's cool. You can watch the temperature go up. It's almost like I'm cooking these steaks. I'm just like watching the app. I'm like, man, this is so cool. I should be doing something else, but I'm watching the app. Anyways, check it out. All right. chefiq.com. Awesome stuff. All right. Now, let's get into the business on the day, because there is, I don't know if it's a prong or a probe, but you shove it in your meat, whatever it is. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I don't know how it identifies, but it's good. All right. So we got business to attend to here today. And thank you for joining us early on the Friday. Very glad to have you here. As we close out the week, let's get to it. James Comey discovery bombshell. You can see this email came out from James Comey's fake pseudonymous account. Reinhold Niebuhr is the name that this email was sent from. And it's a back and forth between James Comey and Daniel Richman. We know Daniel Richman is the ally of James Comey, who was getting information passed to him. He was a law professor, currently still is at Columbia. And then Richman would go to the media. And so we play this game of telephone. Comey would pass it to him, and then he'd pass it off to the media. And this one is very curious. Rewind the clock back to the moments right before the 2016 election, October 28th, 2016. We've got like a week to go. Things are way too close for comfort for Hillary Clinton. Although she's still expected to win. New York Times, I think, said like 92%. Remember those little charts? So the email comes from Comey. And there were a lot of scandalous activities around the Hillary Clinton campaign at the time when she was fighting her emails. Remember, what happened to her missing emails? People said, did you delete those emails, Hillary? And she said, oh, what? You mean like what? Like with a cloth? Huh? Yeah, with a cloth, Hillary. That's what we're talking about. Okay, playing dumb because she's so dumb. But where did those emails come from? Where did they go? What was she using? It was a little secret email server in her basement. Was she on a BlackBerry device? And we remember when Anthony Weiner okay, Huma Abedin's husband, the guy who liked to send pictures of his junk to women, he had a laptop, and that laptop got recovered. And what was on that laptop, in addition to what we speculate is, a lot of perverse material, Hillary's emails were on there because she was emailing with Huma Abedin, Weiner's husband, and her emails were getting backed up to his laptop. So when the FBI got their hands on the laptop, it exposed their lies. Hillary's like, well, we don't know where the emails are. It's all gone. FBI, we're so dumb. We can't figure out anything. And so we're not going to prosecute Hillary. We're going to call it extremely careless, pervert the statute, change it from gross negligence into extremely careless, and then not prosecute her. And Comey said that's going to be in her interest. And when we have President-elect Hillary, she's going to really appreciate what I've done here. Then, a week out, we got Comey sending an email, 10/28. Says, you are both right. And he nailed the position I found myself in. The team comes to me yesterday, the FBI, and there are over 600,000 emails, he says, on Weiser's laptop, it's Weiner, and they include 10 years of Huma Abedin's emails. Oh, that's a motherload, including emails with Hillary that metadata shows are from the missing BlackBerry domain used in the first months of Secretary Clinton's tenure at the State Department. So she's sending emails from her BlackBerry, a BlackBerry domain, not official government emails, not being logged anywhere. She's at the State Department emailing Huma about it. Do you think there were classified materials in those emails or classified information that shouldn't have been sent? Probably. She was at the State Department, okay? Basically, everything's classified. Appears Huma didn't know. All her stuff was backing up to his computer. Comey says, what am I going to do? I got to authorize the work and correct the record with Congress, right? I can't just bury that laptop. Imagine what I would have done to my institution. And we talk about this all the time, okay? These people become institutionalists. They come in there, they go, oh gosh, I'm like a savior of this institution. I'm like a god. I have to protect, I have to save it. It's my baby. And that's all they care about. They don't care about justice. They care about their institution. What would I have done if I didn't do both of those things? Not a hard call, although I hate having to do it. And then, of course, the implications of this, guys who've been on this and studied this for a long time, like Hans Monkey, who wrote the book called Swift Boating America, a great book, been digging into this from the very beginning. He said, there it is. Confirmation. We got 600,000 Hillary emails on Weiner's laptop. There were 10 years of Huma's correspondence with Hillary, including from the missing BlackBerry domain that Hillary used during her first months as the Secretary of State. But somehow, we were expected to believe that none of it was sensitive, none of it was classified, that none of it was even remotely improper at all, and that storing it on a child sex predator's laptop was somehow perfectly acceptable. And of course, we never got to see any of it ourselves. We were simply told to trust James Comey that everything was fine. Everything is not fine. It was a cover-up. And now it's come out on the record. And it came out thanks to Lindseay Halligan. In a sequence of motions, you can see here, one, a response in opposition to Comey. Comey tried to dismiss the indictment. He says, well, there's ambiguity. And I was saying the literal truth. So you can't prosecute me for saying the literal truth. It wasn't a lie. I was saying words that were technically, if you parse those words, true. And another response for a motion of disclosure of grand jury proceedings and more for the bill of particulars, which we'll get into. So we're going to look at all these and see what the latest is. Big case, former FBI director James Comey being prosecuted by the Lindseay Halligan team over in the Eastern District of Virginia. And here is the response that included that email expose. Writing for the prosecutor. Defendant James Comey asks the court to order the government to give him a bill of particulars and saying the indictment sheds no light on the alleged factual basis for the conduct, and it provides no information about what statements or conducts underlie count 2. Now, despite being provided substantial discovery, he wants detailed disclosure of all of our strategies and evidence and all of our legal theories in advance of trial. He wants information that was presented to the grand jury provided to him now. Now, contrary to his request, a bill of particulars is not to be utilized as a discovery device. Given that the indictment that was presented to the grand jury, and we've talked previously about why the grand juries are so secretive, to protect witnesses so that we don't have two trials, so that the executive branch and other entities can't influence what's happening inside the grand jury. It's very protected. Given that the indictment provides Comey with the essential facts, it explains what he's charged with. The court should not require us to disclose the manner in which it will attempt to prove the charges. He doesn't need more information about our methodologies, the precise manner in which we are going to prove our crimes, or give him a preview of our evidence or legal theories that came out during the grand jury process. And here's more. Now, as detailed in the government response to Comey's motion to dismiss, he served as the director of the FBI, 2013 to 2017 when he was fired. Beginning in 15, the FBI conducted an investigation. Okay, they called this the mid-year exam. 2015, elections coming up, Hillary's running. About whether Hillary had committed certain federal crimes while using her private email server, doing official government business. By the spring of 2016, elections coming up soon, Comey and FBI investigators, they determined that evidence to support a criminal prosecution was lacking. And then they went and raided Trump's house, the same FBI. The defendant eventually decided to make an independent announcement. Comey came out, remember this? While consciously concealing his intention to do so from the DOJ leadership. And by the way, the DOJ are the prosecutors. Comey is the cop. They gather the evidence. They turn it over to the prosecutors. The prosecutors make that decision about the government's decision to decline to prosecute Hillary. And that was quantified as bad behavior. Okay, it's not appropriate to do things under the nose of your boss and not tell them. In early July 2016, Comey came out. He made a public statement without the approval of the DOJ, FBI's under the DOJ, in which he criticized Clinton and her senior aides. Remember, he used this phrase, extremely careless, which is different than grossly negligent. How? I don't know. Not much different. But the law says grossly negligent. So if he would have said grossly negligent, meaning you have a gross amount of negligence, you were acting negligently, which is basically a synonym for carelessly. And grossly means a lot, which is a synonym for extreme. So it's the same thing. So he changed it because if he called it grossly negligent, he'd have to charge her. Ooh, because that's the statutory threshold. So he didn't. He changed extremely careless. Okay. James, you're pathetic. We can see what you did here, in which he stated that the FBI was recommending that we don't prosecute Hillary. Great job. So super smart and clever. In September, during an unrelated investigation, guess what happened? Oh, they discovered that pervert's email. Thousands of emails relevant to their mid-year exam. So they come out. He gives a statement. He says, Hillary, we've done our investigation. We figured it all out, but no prosecutor would ever even think about prosecuting Hillary. Then we fast forward a few years, and then suddenly we have 4 prosecutors who are prosecuting President Trump for much less than anything that Hillary did. And they wrote a whole report about this. Now, as a result, in late October 2016, James Comey, he sent a letter to the chairman and the ranking members after the discovery of the Wiener laptop of numerous congressional committees about the newly discovered information. In that letter, Comey said, well, the FBI is going to take appropriate investigative steps designed to allow investigators to review these emails to determine whether they contained any classified information at all. Election is right around the corner, okay? Late October. We got like a week away. Comey sends some letters. Almost immediately after sending the letter, the defendant then starts talking with his media liaison, his leaker, in our opinion, Daniel Richman, a Columbia law professor who also served as a special government employee to respond to the media coverage. Now, on the same day that Comey sent the letter to Congress, he was already coordinating with Richman. He's saying, Richman, I'm going to send this letter to Congress. You go out there and you do these things. Richman emailed defendants. He says, Witz and I are spending a lot of time saying your letter means exactly and only what it says. People are asking, should she be prosecuted? We have an election in like 7 days. Comey, what do you think? You're the FBI. Did she commit a crime? Where are we at? You just came out months ago and said she was fine, extremely careless. Nobody would prosecute her. Then, boom, a new bombshell. Wiener's laptop comes in. Are you going to, what? He says, I wrote a letter. I said we're going to look into it and I'll tell you more later. Well, tell us now because we have an election coming up. Is she a crook or not? He used Gmails and responded with that message that we saw with sensitive, non-public investigative details. And that was my original question as we just read that. What in here was classified? Is he allowed to just openly talk about an investigation into Hillary Clinton with some law professor from Columbia, who I don't believe is a government employee anymore? Those expire, right? He came on temporarily. He may or may not have been, but does he still have access to these things? You were both right. He nailed the position. The team comes to me, 600,000 emails. Quote from Comey, on Weiner's laptop, 10 years, including Hillary's and the metadata. I don't want to do this. I can't. I love Hillary. I want her to win, but I have to protect my institution. And so I have to at least notify Congress. And he could have done a lot more than that. If this was President Trump or something, they would have come out swinging. Look what we discovered. Oh my gosh. We've done a quick analysis in 48 hours, and we found at least after analyzing 5% of the 600,000 emails, we've identified all these classified materials. Something like that, right? You have to know this, but it's Hillary. So he just sends a little letter. Well, we're looking into this. We'll let you know after the election. Congress people are like, what the hell? You just came out and said the opposite. Following this email exchange and 2 days after Comey sent the letter to Congress, Richmond emailed Comey, said, well, I had been asked by the New York Times op-ed page to write something on the letter. Okay, the New York Times goes back to this Columbia guy, like, you're a legal person who's part of the deep state. Why don't you write a letter for Comey? Richmond said, well, I'm not inclined to do so, but if you thought it would help things and how to explain that Comey owed Kong absolute candor and the credibility with Congress would be particularly important in the coming years of threatened congressional investigations. Comey responded to him and said, no need. You don't need to respond. Doing so would be shouting into the wind. Okay, they'll figure that out. And his decision would be one of President-elect Clinton would be very grateful for, although that's why wasn't why he did it. I'll set this all up for Hillary. We'll get it out of the way right now before the election. The people will elect her. She'll be happy it's out, and there won't be any congressional investigations, and she'll see that I'm right, and I'll continue to work for her. Nevertheless, mere days later, and apparently displeased with certain media coverage about Comey's letter, Comey then tacitly instructed Richmond to further explain his reasoning by sending a letter. He wrote, all right, Daniel, Richmond, law professor, when I read the Times coverage involving Reporter One, I'm left with the sense that they don't understand the significance of my having spoke about the case in July. Okay, they don't get it, like how good I am. It changes the entire analysis. Perhaps you can make him smarter, James Comey, because he's so dumb. And James Comey's so much smarter than everybody else. So Daniel, can you explain this to this troglodyte who has no idea what he's doing? He explains, let's imagine the Times had a policy against writing new articles close to elections if the articles might influence the election. Consistent with that policy, they would avoid writing this week if sources told them the FBI was looking at Huma Abedin's emails. But let's imagine that they wrote a very high-profile piece in July that sources led them to now conclude was materially inaccurate. Would they correct it, or would they stay silent because they have a policy to avoid action near elections? Now, I suspect they would quickly conclude, writes Comey in his long, drawn-out, ridiculous, that either course is inaction, and that the choices are either reporting or concealing. But there is no longer a neutral option because of the reporting in July. I also suspect they would resolve very quickly to choose the action of disclosing, because to remain silent is to actively mislead, which has a wide range of very bad consequences. Why is this so hard for them to grasp? Complains Comey. All the stuff about how we were allegedly careful not to take actions on cases involving other allegations about which we have never spoken is irrelevant. I love our practice of being inactive near elections, but inactivity is not an option here. The choices were to act to reveal or act to conceal. And that's right? So Comey, kind of did the right thing. He's like, he has to talk about it. He really wishes he did not have to because he knows how devastating it is. So when he does reveal, it's like a pseudo reveal. It's like, well, we're looking into it. It's not that big of a deal. Just shut up, get the election through, shove her in there. She'll be happy we started talking about it, but I couldn't conceal it. Then people would say you concealed it until after the election. And then Hillary would be in even bigger trouble if she won. FBI covered up all this stuff to get you into office. And now Hillary, you're going to be in big trouble. So he's like doing this for Hillary. It's not for Trump or FBI or justice. I mean, it is for the FBI, but he wants to continue to be in power there. Richmond responded the next day. He says, James, this is exactly what I did. I made this and I thought they understood and that he had been quite wrong. Apparently they don't understand. He also said that he had gone further and said mindless allegiance to the policy and recognition that more evidence would come in would have counseled silence in July to let Hillary twist in the wind. Richmond subsequently emailed Comey to state that he had just got to the home to the reporter at the New York Times, and it was probably rougher than him than you would have been, Comey. Same day, apparently following Richmond's comms to the New York Times, Comey emailed Richmond a link to the New York Times piece and says, oh yeah, pretty good. October 2016, they write a puff piece. They protect Comey. He says, yeah, there you go. That's nice. I would paint the cons more darkly, but not bad. And then Richmond says, see, I can teach. So I was nudging the media on behalf of James Comey. Comey says, well done, my friend. Who knew this would be oh so much fun? Now, despite this conversation and the November instruction to Richmond 2016 and his subsequent expression of approval about the provision of this information to the public, he testified in May 2017 as follows. Grassley came out, said, hey, Comey, Director Comey, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation, Crossfire Hurricane, or the Clinton investigation? Never, says Comey. That's interesting because we've got these emails saying, well done, my friend. Thanks for passing information off to the media. So liar. Question 2 on a relatively related question. Have you ever authorized someone else like Richmond at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? Comey, no, liar. Then in September 2020, during another hearing conducted by the Senate Judiciary Committee, after swearing an oath before his testimony to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, he reaffirmed what he said in May. Senator Cruz. All right, Comey. Let's shift to another topic, James. On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Grassley asked you point blank, James, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? And you responded under oath, James. You said never. He then asked, have you ever authorized someone else? You responded again, no. Now, as you know, James, Mr. McCabe works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth, James? He says, I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what? The testimony you summarized that I gave in May 17. So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And if Mr. McCabe, if he says the contrary, he is not telling the truth. Is that correct? Comey. Again, I'm not going to characterize McCabe's testimony, but mine is the same today. Busted. And of course, this was back May 2017. And then what we had is September 2020. Okay. And 5 years. When did Comey get indicted? September 2025. We were just a stone's throw away from losing the indictment because the statute of limitations was going to expire. So when we come down on the FBI and the DOJ for dragging their feet on these things, this is why we need progress before the statutes of limitations expired. And then we're forced to create some grand conspiracy that then ties everything together, which minimizes our chances at convictions. And a lot of the January 6th stuff, which was January 6, 2021, expiring 5 years after that in 2026, coming up soon. So then Cruz says, all right, do you confirm? He says, I confirm. Perfect. Great. So you got a new lie that you've doubled down on. Now, during the same September 30th hearing, and I think Comey was indicted on the 25th, the defendant was asked by Graham, hey, Comey, do you remember getting or being taught of an investigatory lead from the intelligence community about Hillary Clinton's approval of a plan to try Trump and Russian hackers as means from distracting from her private email server? Do you remember that? Called the mid-year exam? He said, well, you know, that doesn't ring any bells with me. He also told Hawley, Senator, that he did not remember receiving the investigatory referral or anything described therein. The government has nevertheless determined that his handwritten notes that we read before here show he was informed. September 2016, wrote it down. HRC plan to tie Trump. Yeah. He knew exactly what he was doing. So the indictment came out September 25th. 2 counts, lying and obstruction, false statements to Congress. And we've produced a lot of discovery. Now, to date, We've given him a ton of stuff: electronic data, investigative summaries, emails, previous hearing transcripts, witness interviews. This is more fulsome than is even required at this stage, and a lot of this has been very classified. Now, the rules say that an indictment needs to be very simple: a plain, concise, definite written statement of the essential facts constituting the charge. You don't get to see everything that goes on in there, but nevertheless, it's not possible. We can't enumerate all of the theories. And a bill of particulars is appropriate when an indictment fails to provide adequate information so that the defendant knows what is going on and to avoid unfair surprise. Only required when the charges are so general that the defendant has no idea what he did. And it's not a discovery device. And so we're not required to explain everything that we did, our legal strategy, or to go into all of the details, or to lay out our entire case, or to state our legal conclusions. We don't have to give him a preview of our trial strategy. And as you know, Judge, courts are reluctant to direct this to happen, and our indictment is perfectly sufficient. In fact, what he's asking for now are 12 separate particularized demands. But that type of disclosure is not appropriate for a bill of particulars. It should be denied. He can get all this stuff through regular discovery. He wants a bunch of materials. He says, I don't know. What's the factual basis for your claim that Comey knowingly authorized Richmond to be an anonymous source? When and how Comey provided authorization? They want all the details. They're demanding access to all of that information. They say, well, you'll learn all that at trial. Yeah, we'll present our claim at trial. You don't get all of our strategy right now. And they're complaining about Count 2. And even if the court were to determine that we should give this to them, we should not be given all of the things they're demanding. They're basically trying to get discovery through another process, and you shouldn't do that. So coming out from Lindseay Halligan's prosecution team saying, deny that motion. Okay, it's pretty clear what he did. We know how he lied. If you have any questions about it, we also fleshed it out for him right here in this motion, and we attached an email from him that he can read that explains exactly what's going on if he has any questions about it. So another one came in from the DOJ. In the James Comey case, prosecutors responding to James Comey's attempt to dismiss the entire indictment. He filed a motion to dismiss, and they say, well, Ted Cruz's questions were ambiguous. We just read through the transcripts of what those were. They were ambiguous, so I didn't know what I was answering. But Cruz's questions were not ambiguous at all. In fact, to the contrary, as even Comey recognizes, his questions are susceptible to two interpretations to the contrary, narrow and broad. And those interpretations is the jury's job. Okay, they get to decide. We think it was a lie. You say it wasn't. They make that decision. You don't dismiss the indictment right now. He also says that Count 1 should be dismissed because his answers are literally true. But the literal truth defense doesn't apply to an answer that would be true on one construction but false on another. And his attempts to explain away his answers as true under Cruz's questions are also unavailing. Now, his arguments also have the same problems for Count 2. Let's talk about it. In May, we know that there was an exchange where Comey said never. And there was an exchange with Cruz where he said, mine is the same as before, never. Then he got charged. Now, a question can be ambiguous when it lacks a meaning about which men of ordinary intellect could agree. In other words, when its meanings could not be discerned by a jury. When a question is that ambiguous, there is no response to the question that can support a false statement conviction. That's because faced with this ambiguity, it's impossible for the jury to know what you even mean. On the other hand, a question is merely arguably ambiguous versus ambiguous when it is susceptible to multiple interpretations. When that happens, that's what juries are for. They get to decide what it actually means and what you did. Now, drawing the line between fundamentally ambiguous and arguably ambiguous can be elusive. What does it mean? But Cruz's questions to Comey were nowhere near fundamentally ambiguous. In fact, Comey hardly argues otherwise. He even concedes. Senator Cruz asked the defendant Comey to affirm or deny prior testimony. That's it. In response, he affirmed that he had never authorized any of this stuff. Now, Comey says that Cruz's questions are narrow and broad. Under the narrow interpretation, Cruz asked Comey only whether he authorized McCabe to be an anonymous source. Under the broad interpretation, Crooks asked Comey whether he authorized anyone at the FBI to be an anonymous source. But the broad interpretation is the better one. It comports with Crooks's facially broad questions. It recognizes that these are preliminary statements about McCabe. They were merely confronting him with info that undermined his prior testimony. And it's also clear that Comey's answers address the broad question. He expressly set aside any aspect of Crooks's questions dealing with McCabe, saying, I could only speak to my testimony. Reasserted his broad 2017 testimony, saying it's the same as today. So the ambiguities raised by Comey do little to obscure what Crooks was asking. And who's telling the truth is not a compound question. It's an either or. Is it you or is it McCabe? To give the question even an appearance of being compound, you must split the question up. And that's not how it's reasonably interpreted. Now, the other ambiguities in all of this do no more to obscure the meaning. We know what Crooks was asking. Comey flags Crooks's mistaken use of Clinton administration instead of Clinton investigation. But Crooks had correctly referred to Clinton investigation before. Now, notwithstanding the mistake, he reaffirmed his prior testimony without qualification. But in any event, choosing between these two questions is the jury's role. You should not dismiss this right now. The court's role is asking the question, could men of ordinary intellect could agree on the meaning of the questions? Could we all just say, yeah, what's he asking? We certainly could. Comey hardly disagrees and cites a bunch of other law that is not in this circuit. Now, Comey also says that my responses were literally true. This is a narrow defense. It means the defense doesn't apply in cases that where the focus is on the ambiguity of the question. And as discussed, Crooks's questions should be understood to be asking the defendant to affirm or deny his testimony. It's very simple. And Comey doesn't deny that the questions could be given this interpretation. So this defense doesn't apply to him. And if you go through it, he knows he stood by his 17 testimony. He argues this statement was truthful, regardless of anything else. And it's hard to imagine testimony that more clearly expresses agreement with prior testimony than his. And so Crooks asked him the appropriate questions, and Tyler Lemon says, deny James Comey's motion to dismiss the indictment because the literal truth defense doesn't apply. That's the second one. And we've got one final third one here. In response to disclose the grand jury materials. Did we read that one already? I think we had 3 of these here. Excuse the scrolling here. No, here it is. Okay, last one from the DOJ. Comey and his motion to disclose more materials should be denied. Rules about disclosures of grand jury proceedings are very strict, and the standard is you don't get access to those things. On October 13th, we wanted a filter protocol. He filed a motion to oppose the filter protocol. We had a hearing in front of Judge Fitzpatrick. He stated that he wants to know what other information was seized from the prior warrants, the 2019 warrants and the 2020 warrants that had a lot to do with the leaks that Comey was responsible for, in our opinion. In the briefing before the judge, he said that there were concerns about taint. Well, what if they used privileged information? Then in November, just days ago, the judge ordered a bunch of materials to be produced to you. You asked for additional briefing from us. We're giving that to you now. The rule says grand juries are secret. If he moves for a disclosure, he has to have a heavy burden and show exactly why he needs this stuff. But this has been vague. This has been unsubstantiated. There are no evidence presented of irregularity. And he's now fishing for things. So we shouldn't allow him to breach the sanctity of the grand jury proceedings without a particularized and factually based reason for doing so. The rest of this doesn't meet the standard for disclosure. And all of this is rank speculation. His story is high on rhetoric, but low on fact. Although the grand jury did originally return a no true bill, the foreperson made clear that it was only as to one count in the first indictment. And so in conclusion, there are no substantiated allegations of irregularity. Nothing in the rules allows us to disclose grand jury materials to James Comey and his defense, and the case moves forward, of course, being handed off to the courts after a reply from Comey. They'll make a decision on some of these motions. But we also have a big question about Lindseay Halligan, the prosecutor, and whether or not she will continue to be on the case. And there were some updates on this yesterday from CNN because there was a hearing about whether or not to disqualify Lindseay Halligan. They're trying to get her off the case. And there was some more reporting here saying attorneys for Comey and Tisch battled Lindseay Halligan in court to determine whether she can be properly appointed. Judge Cameron McGowan Curry pressed Whitaker on whether the government believed that the classified documents in Florida were incorrectly dismissed. So in other words, do you think Jack Smith was not a real boy? And how does that compare and contrast with you, Lindseay Halligan, which is obviously a false equivalence because the assigned prosecutor to James Comey, Lindseay Halligan, is filling the seat of a U.S. attorney, not a special counsel, which is a U.S. attorney is a much more statutorily defined position and has a basis for existence. Jack Smith, who was never a U.S. attorney, got appointed under the Reno regulations, which were these cobbled together rules that enabled the Justice Department to fake a special counsel, which is what they did. So it's not the same thing at all. Jack Smith was not acting or interim or a U.S. attorney appointed in any way, shape, or form. He was cobbled together from the Reno regulations. But this is a big deal. We'll see what the judges do on this. Comey wasn't indicted. They said Pam Bondi reviewed the grand jury transcript, and Lindseay Halligan will have to fight this. Lengthy hearing. Answers been all over the place. Abby Lowell was there. And we'll see what the judge rules. Should Lindseay Halligan be disqualified or not? So we got Pam Bondi. She was out yesterday. She's saying Lindseay Halligan is doing an amazing job. Here is Pam Bondi.
Sue them. We will ultimately win, of course. But yeah, they're attempting to remove many of President Trump's U.S. attorneys around the country. The Comey indictment's going to be just fine. I've also signed on to that, backing up what Lindseay Halligan did because they're coming after her. I read all the transcripts. She's doing a great job. So sue them. We will ultimately.
Okay, so she did sign and backdate some documents, and we'll see if those carry weight with the court. But here's more from Pam Bondi on with Fox last night.
The issue came up today. There were arguments before the judge. This is in, I believe, the Eastern District of Virginia. Lindseay Halligan, a temporary appointment, but a legitimate appointment. And looks like the judge wants to maybe throw out the charges against Comey, for example, on the issue of, well, she doesn't have the right to a temporary appointment. You took very strong issue with that.
We did. We argued that today. Lindseay is a great U.S. attorney. We have great U.S. attorneys around this country. And these judges think that they can control who Donald Trump puts as U.S. attorneys, who the Department of Justice has in place to be a U.S. attorney. It's the executive branch's job to do this. And we're going to fight them. We're going to sue them. We will ultimately win, of course. But yeah, they're attempting to remove many of President Trump's U.S. attorneys around the country.
And we'll see what happens. I have some concerns about these judges and these courts based on the reporting that we're looking at. They are looking for any fake because to screw these cases up. And Lindseay Halligan might be a good place for them to start. Of course, the appeals might go up, all the way up to SCOTUS to say what the final decision is on this, because we do have some ambiguity about the appointment process in 120 days. We've been fighting over this for a long time. So Pam Bondi has Lindseay Halligan in there, and we barely got Lindseay Halligan in there, like barely, to get these indictments in the first place. So we'll see where this one goes. We'll keep our eye on it. But Comey caught even more saying, yep, we got all these materials, 600,000 emails, a lot of which we've never even seen or had any exposure to because Comey was covering it up. Now the records are out for all of us to see. Lindseay Halligan fighting for her position against corrupt federal judges. We'll see what they say. We'll keep our eye on it. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right. Now let's turn our attention to the FBI. And this should be a spicy segment. Here we go. FBI now striking back. They created a rapid response X account and they posted this. And they're now responding to people based on this pretense. So why did this account get created in the first place? Here's what they said. Under Director Patel, Bongino, and Bailey, your FBI's in a new era. One where we communicate more than any FBI ever before and more directly with the American people about the important work we're doing. But that's only a piece of what we're doing. Our team continues to face an avalanche of lies, smears, and falsehoods from the fake news and others who seeking to undermine our work and national security. So now you have to be a cheerleader for the FBI or else you're wrecking America. No FBI has had the temerity to put the truth as we have. They bent the knee to lies in the DC swamp. We changed that on day one, and now we'll go even further and more direct. The days of bad faith attacks and fake news narratives are over. Welcome to FBI Rapid Response. And when we first read this, I was sitting down on the show yesterday. I was like, oh gosh, this is ick, like the ick immediately. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. So who are they going to come after? Who are they going to respond to? Who are these bad faith attacks coming from? Who are the fake news people that they have to dunk on? Well, you can just go right over to their account and you can see what they're up to, what they're doing. And look at this. On a day when everybody was having to fight back against Epstein lies, okay, the Democrats deleted, literally, their post about Trump hanging out with Epstein over Thanksgiving. There was FBI criticism that the FBI is covering up for PDF files, and the Democrats were attacking them relentlessly. What did this account choose to do? Go respond to Tucker Carlson, who's actually investigating the Thomas Crooks Butler assassin. So Tucker came out. He said the FBI told us that Thomas Crooks tried to kill Donald Trump last summer, but somehow had no online footprint. The FBI lied. We can prove it because we have his posts. The question is why? Story tomorrow. FBI comes out, dunks on Tucker. This FBI has never said Thomas Crooks has no online footprint, ever. Okay, well, how about you guys show us his online footprint then? Can you give us an answer on that? Can you give us some information? Respond to Tucker and provide the info. But they even got community noted, I think, on this one. Let me see if that is still available. But people are responding to this and pointing things out. And it wasn't just Tucker, by the way. They also then, in the rest of their night, came out and then responded to Miranda Devine, another person. Tucker Carlson is investigating Thomas Matthew Crooks, a giant cover-up where they shot Trump in the head. Miranda Devine has been calling out the media, calling out the FBI for covering up the Hunter Biden laptop. She has been a hero of transparency in calling out the FBI, okay, for years. She says this is pathetic. Had the same reaction that I had yesterday, and is a little bit more direct about it. This is pathetic. Miranda Devine is a hero and has been on top of this corruption at the FBI forever. So then Rapid Response dunks on her. They say, Rapid Response posts facts, Miranda. Here are a few. 29,000 plus arrests, over a 100% increase from the year before. 1,900 kilograms of fentanyl off the streets, up 31%. 5,000 child victims located, over 35%. 300 plus human traffickers arrested, up 10%. 35% increase in espionage arrests. 6,000 illegal firearms off the streets. Okay, that's all great. That's great news. By the way, this is basic stuff. You guys should be doing this in the first place. I would imagine a lot of that is local cops who are doing that work. Local cops should really, be conducting most of those arrests because they're pulling people over for traffic tickets, seeing all this stuff, right? FBI's not doing any of that. So that's all great. You guys should be doing the basic things. It's not that complicated to just do basic law enforcement. So don't pat yourself on the back for doing your job. Great job. You're doing your job. Amazing. But then they write this. Hey, Miranda, if posting the truth bothers you, brace yourself. We're just getting started. Man, how dare you talk to Miranda Devine like that? If posting the truth bothers you, she's been posting the truth for decades. Brace yourself. We're just getting started. And these are two conservatives. These are two people on the right. Why is Cash's FBI Rapid Response coming after? This is everything they posted. Miranda Devine and Tucker Carlson. Those are the two people they come out swinging against, and then repost Dan Bongino coming after Thomas Massie. All the people have problems with the FBI, rightfully so, because the FBI is a corrupt institution. Just because you put lipstick on it and you shove Cash Patel in there and put a new label on it, have a new account, doesn't mean that it's suddenly a credible institution. So of all of their posts, they go after Thomas Massie, Tucker Carlson, and Miranda Devine, of all people. Miranda Devine. It's really pathetic. After everything that we saw yesterday, all the lies from the Democrats about the Epstein files, what is this account? Who is running this account is what I'd like to know. And it's outrageous, quite frankly. It's outrageous. Whoever's behind it should be ashamed of themselves. And Cash Patel and Dan Bongino, are they endorsing this? Then they respond, listen to how they're talking to people. This is so insulting. Hello, this account. This account responds, hey, can you please continue to debunk statements made by your former agents that the 764 pedophile network isn't a serious concern to the FBI? Thanks. Hey, we have a question for you. Rapid response. Can you respond rapidly to this? Here's what they say. Hello, BX on X. Yes, the FBI takes 764 extremely seriously. We've increased the number of arrests from this network over the last year. It's one of our top priorities. In fact, we just announced another member arrested and charged 2 weeks ago, with more news to come. Anyone saying otherwise is frankly an idiot. From an official government account from the FBI. Thank you. You're an idiot if you ask questions or have an alternative theory. Man, your credibility at the FBI was already 0%. Way to shove it way into the negatives with this crap. You're going to call us idiots for asking questions about your corrupt, disgusting agency that's been disgusting and corrupt our entire lives. Dan and Cash come in, don't do anything really meaningful at all other than boast about their basic numbers that they should be doing, making drug arrests. Wow, great job, FBI. Forget about all of the structural concerns that are embedded in your institution, how you guys give no answers on Las Vegas shooting, Charlie Kirk shooting, the Butler attack, the J6 pipe bomber. How many federal agents were in the crowd on January 6th? There were FBI agents. The Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, the Comey stuff, the cover up of the Hunter Biden laptop, the suppression of evidence on social media. We want those things solved. Those were the problems that tried to steal our country from us. Drugs are a problem. Great job. You can have the local cops do that, and we can get rid of you guys completely and just have the local cops protect our streets rather than you guys who apparently want to take credit for their work. So it really offends me. And I know Miranda, I've met Miranda. She's a very nice woman and doesn't deserve to be talked about in this manner. And what's so sick about this is the basis for this account being created, as they explained, was to go after smears and lies. Okay? We're going to go after bad faith attacks. Is Tucker Carlson, who I love, is he responsible for bad faith attacks on the FBI? Does he create fake news narratives, Miranda Devine, when they're asking about the Butler shooting or Thomas Matthew Crooks or the Hunter Biden laptop cover up? Fake news narratives that they're attacking them? Okay, so if we have questions about the FBI, and we have a lot of them, are we spreading bad faith attacks? Are we fake news narratives? And they're fighting back against us after Dan Bongino came out yesterday and was complaining about how hard his job was. We're under so many challenges. And the list goes on and on. Getting pretty agitated about having to protect this FBI and defend their good work because we're not seeing any of it. So then they get a community note. Tucker Carlson is saying, hey, you guys lied. You said that there was no information about this and you covered it up, because they did. And then community notes came out and they said, oh, hey, stupid FBI rapid response account, idiots. In a July 30th, 2024 Senate hearing, FBI Deputy Director Paul Abate disclosed a social media account believed to be associated with the shooter. Abate went on to describe a general absence of other information to date from social media. Oh, so they're going to say, well, this FBI has never said anything, so don't blame us. Okay, well, you guys can come and correct the record if you'd like to. You don't have to come dunk on Tucker and Miranda and call everyone else idiots for asking questions about what you're doing. So Paul Abate came out and had a statement that was very similar to that. that we'll talk about. Miranda Devine saying this is pathetic because it is, and then they dunked on her for that, who's been a truth teller for generations now. And the FBI rapid response is just salivating over their numbers, which many of those numbers are, Brianna Mello asks a great question. How many of these busts started with local police doing the hard work and then the FBI stepped in afterwards to get credit? A lot, because we saw Kash Patel do that. Soon as Kash Patel came in, he's like, FBI is very happy to talk about Operation Whatever. And then Operation Whatever was Christopher Wray's operation. Thank you, Brianna. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting question. 0 Epstein clients, 0 Arctic Frost, 0 Russia collusion, futurist. A lot of people responding to this, and rightfully so. Yeah, it's a very interesting question from Brianna. Shout out to Brianna. Now here, Glenn Greenwald shared this one in response. Here is Dan Bongino. He's now the deputy director of the FBI, may have been endorsing this ridiculous account. And here is what he was saying to the Heritage Foundation. Chip Roy shared this one some time ago saying, what do we know about Butler and Thomas Matthew Crooks? Here's Dan Bongino explaining what we and our perception was when Dan was just outside the FBI. A lot has changed recently, but until recently, this was the public perception of what the FBI has given us.
We talked about this before. I have seen credible information, the extent to which the shooter had significant explosives that were sophisticated beyond that you would expect some 20-year-old just to put together, and that he had sophisticated detonation devices on his person, or a sophisticated detonation device, and importantly, that his digital footprint is completely MIA. That his digital footprint is missing. And that how can a 20-year-old in today's time have no digital footprint? So do you have any thoughts on that, any comments on that? And that'll be my last question.
Well, 4 years of doing protective intelligence investigations with the Secret Service, interviewed probably hundreds of people who have credibly threatened our protectees. I've never seen anything like it. If you would have told me it was a 60-year-old guy who had lived most of his life without a computer and for the last 10 years had been planning this, hard to believe, but digestible. You're telling me a 20-year-old kid who's grown up in the digital era figured this out when he was, 13? To never get an online presence? We've seen nothing. Nothing. We're now 6 weeks in. There's not a Facebook photo.
Yeah.
You know, it's incredible. We know every single thing about these shooting incidents when there's a political narrative to be had by the media and the other side. We do. You know who their high school girlfriend was. Sadly, you know everything about these people. We know nothing about this guy. And sophisticated explosives, we have this massive law enforcement bureaucracy. No one's got him with an online search history at a library saying, how do I build this? He's 20 years old. It just defies logic. I can tell you, again, 4 years doing these exact investigations, never, ever seen or heard anything like this in my life.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. We were all very surprised about it. And we were wondering why the FBI didn't have more for us. But the FBI has now been in there for 10 months, and maybe they could have released some information on Butler, just like Tucker Carlson did right here. Tucker Carlson released a full video about this, identifying emails and all of the other information that maybe the FBI could have released to us in a report, in a debriefing. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, new FBI, Pam Bondi, coming out swinging. We're going to deliver truth to you. You got questions about Butler? Here you go. Here's what we found. But no, they've instead created a rapid response team to dunk on Tucker Carlson and Miranda Devine. And Tucker is the person who's actually bringing some of this truth out to light for once. Maybe the FBI and Dan and Kash and the rapid response team should learn how to do some video editing skills. Then they can make some videos like this one.
A tip from a source. He told us he'd gained access to some of Thomas Crooks's accounts. He'd found these accounts by utilizing tools commonly used by private investigators. The key lead was Thomas Crooks's phone number. That was published in documents obtained by America First Legal. That phone number led our source to Thomas Crooks's primary email account, tmcrooks7@gmail.com. That in turn, he linked with more than a dozen other accounts. That list includes 2 foreign encrypted email accounts, American Gamer at gmx.com, a German website, and bcook at mailfence.com, a Belgian website. Crooks had a Snapchat, Tom_Crooks19, a Venmo account, Thomas-Crooks12, a PayPal account under the alias Rod Swanson, a Zelle registered as Thomas Crooks, as well as accounts on Discord, a Google Play account called Colossal Microwave, a Quizlet titled Thomas_Crooks, a chess.com with the same name, and 2 disabled Quora accounts under the handles Thomas Crooks 8 and Thomas Crooks 3. It turns out that Thomas Crooks was hardly an online ghost. He was active, and yet federal investigators lied and told us there was no trace of him online. Some of Crooks' accounts, like his Snapchat, appear to have been fully deactivated and completely taken out of use. Some of them may have been unused or cleared by federal officials during the investigation. We don't know because the FBI wouldn't tell us.
Yeah, and they're still now responding to Tucker like, well, we never did anything bad. We never lied. It was the other guys. Okay, well, do you have the files? Are you running the FBI? Because if you are, then maybe you can come correct the record and stop attacking people who are asking questions about it. Stop dunking on Steve Baker and these other guys. Either refute them or not. Give us some guidance on what's going on here. Don't come out and start attacking people on our side who are actually trying to bring the truth to the public. The FBI should be doing this. They're not doing it. They're actually doing the opposite. They're attacking everybody who is wanting to bring the truth out because they're protecting their institution, because they're institutionalists. Here's another one. Andrew Torba runs this account called Gab, this platform called Gab. Posted this one back July 30th, 2024, an old one. 29 million views on this. They also say that he was apparently on Gab. Thomas Matthew Crooks went to Butler to try to kill Trump. In doing so, fatally shot other people, left 2 potential explosive devices in his vehicle. We're now identifying emails and maybe even a Gab account that this dude was on. And he got that disclosure from the old FBI, but that was it. That's basically it. May have had a Gab account. Didn't see much else there other than that. So we have a lot of questions about this, and we appreciate Tucker. We appreciate Miranda digging in on these stories, but instead, all we get is a rapid response X account. This is the entire account. And when they're not elevating Bongino and Cash, they're dunking on conservatives, Tucker and Miranda. Pretty reprehensible. Now, Susan Crabtree, the Secret Service whisperer, said there's a lot of intrigue over Trump shooter Thomas Crooks. Says Tucker said he's going to release some major info today, and he has. I've been asking for more info from the FBI and the Secret Service about Thomas Crooks for more than a year. What about his encrypted apps? Why don't we know what they contained? Why was he using multiple foreign-based encrypted apps? Andrew Torba, the Gab founder, just weeks after the Butler assassination, released the FBI's demands from his post for when he was 14 and 15. Those Gab posts directly contradict the narrative that Thomas Crooks was aligned with one party or another, according to Torba. Torba pointed out that the account the FBI requested was unequivocally pro-Biden, is what Torba said. Unequivocally pro-Biden. So Susan Crabtree, it's like, hey, Dan and Cash, don't ask like people aren't asking you for this. Like maybe you should have just asked us. Remember Dan said yesterday, Thomas Massie, just call me, I'll tell you. Well, Susan Crabtree has been calling. Susan Crabtree has been asking, and you haven't returned anything to us. Instead, they're just whining, really. And I was thinking about that yesterday. That Dan Bongino post really irked me because in that post, let's see if we can go find it. He was basically screaming at how hard everything was. Didn't even tag Bongino. And the answer is, I mean, I think Dan would say the same thing. Do you have results? Yes or no? We're working hard. We had this many meetings. We sent this many documents. We talked to this many experts and investigators and all. Do you have the answer? Yes or no? Do you have the pipe bomber? Yes or no? Do you have information on Thomas Crooks or a conclusion that you can share with us? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then I don't care about all of the difficulties you have in your life. You were assigned to do a job. Every other employer and employee in America has this dynamic. You give an employee a task, go do the thing. They come back to you. They say, well, I did this and this and this and this and this. I did all these other things. I worked really hard and I was going over here talking. That's great. Did you finish the thing. Yes or no? If the answer is no, then you didn't complete the task. You have failed your task. I don't hate you, but you have to understand the nature of reality. You can talk about doing all of the things in the world, but if you don't actually deliver, nobody cares. So Dan was really feeling like that, pounding the table yesterday, and very frustrating because we want to support them. But we've got some other stories related to this. And the FBI pipe bomber, of course, is the subject of a lot of conversation. And the FBI, I think this is really what kicked a lot of it off. They were responding that the Steve Baker articles and all these things are just unhelpful, and they don't really want to talk about it at all. How dare you talk about it? So now we've got a response from Shani Kirkoff's lawyer. New York Times wrote this dumb article, and we do have something good in here because this guy came out. Steve Bunnell, an attorney for Kirkhoff, has finally answered something about this, voluntarily identified his client by name in a statement to the Washington Post, saying she had been so widely and falsely accused in recent days that she had to push back. So now she's saying no because the Capitol Police won't issue a statement, because the FBI won't issue a statement. She's working for the CIA now. They won't issue a statement. So she goes and hires a lawyer, and they release a statement. He says, these shameful allegations are recklessly false, absurd, and defamatory. Ms. Kirkhoff categorically denies them. That came over from Bunnell, a former federal prosecutor. Now, the FBI didn't respond to requests for an answer to questions. They just said the pipe bomb case remains a high priority for the FBI and our law enforcement partners. So they won't even rapidly respond to the New York Times. We have questions about this. They won't even say. So she goes and gets a lawyer. She denies all of the allegations, and we'll see what the FBI does about it. They'll probably, as if past precedent is any guide on future performance, probably not do much. But Cash has also responded to attacks on his girlfriend, though. And so we're going to talk about this now. He posted this, Kash Patel, the FBI director, from a government account, before coming out and attacking Tucker Carlson and Miranda Devine. He was also very upset about the misinformation about his girlfriend. And now she, seemingly with Cash's endorsement, is suing other conservative influencers who are also asking questions about the FBI and Kash Patel and his relationships, as is their right. They can speculate about whatever the hell they want. This is America. And Kash says, I am proud of the work this FBI has done. We are taking violent criminals off the streets in record numbers, crushing the fentanyl crisis, dismantling cartels, saving children, hunting down terrorists, and so much more. Let me be clear. We will not be distracted by baseless rumors or the noise from uninformed internet anarchists and the fake news. Okay, so this we didn't read here before. I just thought that maybe Kash was having a little bit of like a, meltdown over his love life or whatever. So didn't want to spend a lot of time on it. But this mirrors the same thing that the FBI rapid response team is posting. An avalanche of lies, smears, and falsehoods from fake news. Is Kash writing these posts? Because it sounds just like what he posted about his girlfriend over here. What do we do with this one? Let me be clear. We will not be distracted by baseless rumors. I've always said, criticize me all you want. We will. And we're going to, I think, start a lot more now based on what we're seeing here. But going after the people doing great work, my personal life, or those around me is a total disgrace. The disgustingly baseless attacks against Alexis, a true patriot, and the woman I'm proud to call my partner in life, not a wife, just a girlfriend, are beyond pathetic. She is a rock-solid conservative and a country music sensation who has done more for this nation than most will in 10 lifetimes. I'm so blessed she's in my life. Attacking her isn't just wrong, it's cowardly and jeopardizes our safety. My love of family will always be my cornerstone, and you will never tear that down or keep me from them. I and this FBI will stay laser focused on our mission and continue the reform we promised, rebuilding this bureau from the ground up. And to our supposed allies staying silent, your silence is louder than the clickbait haters. Okay, well, the reason we didn't talk about this, Kash, is because it was so pathetic, to be honest with you. You can protect your girlfriend. You're the FBI director. You don't have to make internet posts screaming at everybody because they're saying nasty things about her. Readers said people are largely not attacking Kash's girlfriend, but rather reacting to the firing of people who point out his usage of government funds to travel to her shows on that private jet that Cash was very upset about for a long time. Patel's previous comments on FBI officials using private planes and taxpayer dollars linked to 2 articles over there. And yet I don't think, we've never attacked Alexis or Cash or any of those things. We don't plan on it, but we are allowed to ask questions about people in Cash's life. He's the FBI director. We're allowed to ask what his behavior is. Why is he doing these things? Why was he in China? Why is he flying to all these locations on government dime, on the government jet? We're allowed to ask those questions. It's not an attack, Cash. Don't be so sensitive. Let's back up just a minute because I skipped over this one. Maybe the FBI rapid response can also respond to this. Rather than Cash whining about his girlfriend, they can answer questions about this. Our friend, Free State Will, also a truth teller, somebody who's been fighting against the FBI and the DOJ for years, exonerating himself after facing J6 charges. Is he somebody who's spreading smears and lies? He says, maybe you guys can answer this question, Cash and Dan, in FBI rapid response. Who were these FBI agents in the crowd on January 6th? Can you identify them for us? He says, why were FBI agents clapping as people ran up the Capitol steps? Why were the FBI agents saying, this is huge, back on the day? Let's turn this volume up. Pretty sure there's audio on this, but it's not playing right now.
Oh man, this is huge. Yes!
Yes! This is huge. They're running up. Former FBI liaison to Capitol Police, John Guandolo, active duty FBI colleague 2, active duty FBI colleague 1. Man, this is huge.
Oh man, this is huge.
Yeah, it's huge because the operation was going off without a hitch. They were successful in it. So instead of answering questions about January 6th, the pipe bomber, about Butler, about really all of the other major important things, FBI cover-ups during COVID, Hunter Biden laptop, all the things, Cash is writing about his girlfriend and about attacks on her, which are not attacks. We're allowed to speculate about Cash's personal relationships. He's the FBI friggin' director, okay? So that's what they're up to. Now, we have Cash in this post, which came out November 2nd, seemingly dragging his girlfriend into the public arena. Now, in defamation lawsuits, we're going to look at 3 of them coming from his girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins. In defamation lawsuits, there's a different standard if you're a public person. You got to have actual malice. And of course, she's a public person. She's a country music phenomenon. Sensation. Done more for this nation than most will in 10 lifetimes because she's better than you. And I'm so blessed she's in my life, and I'm going to stand up for her, including on my official government account. Then so before this post comes out, she was suing a bunch of people. And let's learn a little bit more about her from people, because we don't want to get sued and make any false claims here. Here's what people are saying. She says, who is this woman? Alexis Wilkins. They've been dating for a long time. Says FBI Director Kash Patel has been with his girlfriend for over 2.5 years before he became the director. They met at an event in Nashville, and they've been dating since at least 2023. She shared her Instagram. Wilkins, she's 18 years younger, and stood by his side as he was sworn in. The couple recently made headlines after Patel used an agency jet to visit her, who was performing the national anthem at a wrestling event in Pennsylvania. Public figure. The FBI director went on to defend his girlfriend in a lengthy X post talking about baseless rumors and fake news and attacks on her. So who is Kash Patel's girlfriend? Here's what you need to know. She grew up in Arkansas, and a lot of this info comes from a July 2025 appearance on the Megyn Kelly Show. She said, I grew up in Arkansas. It was my favorite place I lived. People asked me, says, oh, did you love Europe? She also spent time in England and Switzerland. In a video for PragerU, she said, only child, Christian household. Another photo of them. Graduated Belmont University. She was involved in the ethics debate team, received accolades, and more. Here's a photo of her. Country singer, has been a recording artist since 2017, released a album. Consultant of the American Border Story. Also works for PragerU, ambassador to Turning Point. And they met at an event in Nashville. Isn't that lovely? She says, Cash is, I like him because he's just so honest, you know. We're both very patriotic. So obviously there are things we agree on. And they've been dating since at least 2023. And people, you know, I think that's an interesting point. It's like, if you thought that she was some asset or something who like just started dating Cash Patel after he became the director, that's not true. But, you know, Cash did have a pretty high profile position before that. So I don't know that it necessarily deflates that, you know, speculative allegation, which we're not endorsing here, just, you know, talking about. I think you could still make an argument the other way. But that's who she is. And now she's suing 3 other conservative influencers, including Elijah Schaefer. This lawsuit hit the docket back on October 28th. And here's what it looks like as it hits in West Palm Beach Division in Florida. And I just have to say, filing lawsuits for defamation against 3 people in 3 different jurisdictions is not a cheap thing to think about. It's an expensive ordeal, and it's going to cost the defendants a bunch of money and expenses to respond to all of this. But we've got 3 lawsuits here. This one, West Palm Beach Division. The next one that we'll talk about, Texas, against Kyle Seraphin. And then the last one in Utah. Expensive. So I'm wondering who's paying for this. Is she paying for it? Is somebody else helping out with these fees? Or what's going on here exactly? Let's take a look at the lawsuits and just explain what Alexis Wilkins is saying that Elijah Schaefer did and talk about it. She says in this lawsuit, she wants a jury trial. Alexis Wilkins, Cash's girlfriend, says, this defendant, Elijah Schaefer, and if you're not familiar with who he is, you've probably seen him before. Big content creator, been around a long time, now being sued by the FBI's girlfriend, and also says, my family has been doxxed. They had to move out of their home because of this lawsuit. So here's what's happening. They say that Elijah perpetrated a malicious lie about Alexis, falsely claiming that she, an American-born country singer, is an agent of a foreign government, assigned to manipulate and compromise the director of the FBI. Perpetrated a malicious lie. Perpetuated. So wasn't the source of it, but perpetuated it by reposting it. The defendant, an internet personality, great, a public figure, thank you, who makes a living as a podcaster and political commentator, profiting on the defendant, they're saying Elijah is a internet personality. He profits on controversy and outrage. This is a fabricated narrative. He's enriching himself based on clickbait, sending it out to a sizable audience with no reason. And now she wants him held accountable. Now she says, I'm a resident and citizen of the United States. And just by the way, so what if you're an American-born country singer? Can we not have any American-born country singers who are agents of foreign governments? Does that like immunize you? If you're a country singer, does that mean you're like 100% American loyalty because you sing about America and your country music? I think you can be both. I'm not saying she is, but I think, what does that have to do with it? I think it can be both. And what's so interesting about these complaints are if we think you're a secret agent, that's kind of the whole point of the analysis. It's like you have cover for that, right? So if you believe that, and in order to achieve liability on a defamation claim, you got to have actual malice, and your justification is, well, she's a secret agent, then you can make a good argument that it's not made with malice because you believe that there's a cover story for it. She can come out, I'm from Tennessee, I'm a country singer, I'm all these. Okay, great. That's what all the spies would say. Okay, so how can you show that Elijah Schaefer is malicious and trying to spread a slanderous lie if you think there's truth in the deep cover? Okay, but she's upset about it. So she's a resident. She lives in Tennessee. He's a resident of Florida. She's suing in Florida. She says she's American, born in the U.S., patriotic, conservative, Christian, country music artist, published writer, also works for PragerU, in a long-term relationship with Cash, the FBI director, and he's made her a public figure if she wasn't before by defending her on his X account. This was widely known, and Miss Wilkins has posted photos as early as January 2024. And on November 30th, Trump came in, announced he's nominating Cash. Senate confirmed him, we know. Then an internet personality called Elijah, CEO of Rift TV. He's got almost 850,000 followers on X. Wow, that's a lot. Defendant routinely posts politically charged content, generating controversy. Now, defendant generates income through X. They pay him advertising. And on September 14th, some other X user called Hens Mazig published a lengthy and detailed post about the prominent role of female Mossad agents that they have played in Israel's intelligence efforts against Iran, including by seducing top officials, some of them reportedly seducing high-ranking enemy officials. Then, in a quote post published the same day, Elijah posted, without a caption, a photograph of Alexis Wilkins on her Instagram. In the photo, Wilkins and Patel are dressed up at a formal event. Miss Wilkins is wearing a fitted red halter neck cocktail dress right there. Nice photo. And so here's what Hen said in his post. It says, Mossad sent female operatives deep into Iran, seducing top officials, infiltrating government surveillance networks, and more. In one of the most audacious operations, Mossad deployed dozens of female operatives into Iran, boots on the ground. According to the Jerusalem Post, Mossad director called David Barnea personally oversaw the unprecedented deployment of female agents. While the exact nature of their missions are classified, they were capable of a lot of things. He said that they directed hundreds of operatives and local assets into action. Report also reveals that Mossad now has precise intelligence on the location of their enriched uranium stockpiles. More about Iran, more about Israel. Okay, so Elijah just says, yeah, maybe this is something else that's happening. Yeah, maybe it's this situation right here, right there. Didn't say it is, didn't say, well, she is a honeypot or she is an asset. Just post a photo of her, okay? And then she flips out and sues. Defendant's post of the photo got massive engagement, 1.5 million views, 38,000 likes, and I'm sure a lot more people are going to see it now. But while the defendant may not have included a caption to spell out his post, he didn't say she is anything, just added a photo. He didn't have to. Ever since Cash was appointed to the director, the conspiratorial corners of the internet and social media are spreading false narratives that she's an Israeli honeypot who is only in a relationship with Cash to spy and manipulate the government. This wordless reply to a lengthy description was carefully chosen, and it's unmistakably accusing Miss Wilkins of being a Mossad agent for Israel who has seduced Director Patel to compromise him. This insidious insinuation, understood by an ordinary viewer, is that she's a spy conducting espionage to undermine our national security. These accusations are categorically false, and the defendant knows it. Can they prove that he does know it? He knows it's false, and he's going to say it anyways? I don't think so. Defendant's viewers interpreted his post to be calling Miss Wilkins a Mossad agent. Or to be calling or to be speculating? Well, officially, I officially think this. Did he say that? I don't think he did. Imagine her face in response. One X user stated, imagine her face when Mossad told her what her job was going to be. Like, you're assigned to Cash. Yeah, another stated that Director Patel was offered a Mossad wifey. So she's now suing Elijah for the commenters. Why is she not suing the commenters? She's suing Elijah. He intended this defamatory implication frequently post anti-Israel rhetoric, accusing Israel of controlling the United States and his politicians. Is that an actionable lawsuit claim right now? Are you not allowed to say that anymore? Trump doesn't want to admit Netanyahu doesn't fear him. Israel has more control over the USA than we do over them. Our politicians are hook, line, and sinker sold out to the Jewish state regime. It's genuinely disheartening. We must remove these people from AIPAC. Yeah, so some aggressive language there, right? My entire feed is just people glazing Israel and defending the occupation of our nation. So he's allowed to have those opinions. You might disagree with the language and the positions. He's allowed to say those things without getting sued for a pseudo defamation claim. Is she more mad about Israel, or is she more mad about the fact that she is allegedly, according to her claims, a Mossad honeypot? Also has disdain for Director Patel, recently referring to him as a traitor. He's allowed to do that. Now, he knowingly, again, I disagree. Knowingly, the whole purpose of being a honeypot is that you're secretive. How could he know? or with reckless disregard for the truth, fabricated this accusation at the expense, generating outrage, and he acted negligently. Minimally, he acted negligently. So defamation comes against him. He posted a photo, so now she's suing him, saying, in making this post, it was an actual literal true photograph, and it reasonably implies she's a Mossad agent. Categorically false. It's so damaging to her reputation. She depends on this reputation as a patriotic American for her profession. And his other posts about Israel support this inference that he hates Israel. And defendant published this with an implication. At no point has he reached out to her. She has publicly stated that his statements are false. He's acted negligently, but I would say that's not enough. She's a public figure. It's got to be actual malice. However, his obvious animus against Israel combined with the inherent... Is she mad that he's upset with Israel and saying that she's Israeli or an Israeli asset because she hates Israel? Is that where the damage is coming from? It's ludicrous, and there's ample evidence he acted with actual malice. Now, considering these various posts about Israel, a reasonable person would assume this is not mere hyperbole. No, he might actually believe it. The defamatory application is directed and caused harm, significant damages, and so we want a lawsuit, suing him for $5 million for posting a picture and not being happy with Israel. Coming from this lawyer, Jason Greaves, from the Banal Law Group in Alexandria, Virginia. All right, so of course, that's just one. And you might say you don't like Elijah Schaefer's positions or some of his language. I certainly don't use a lot of that language here. And I can understand that. But you also have a public figure who is suing somebody for their political positions about the girlfriend of the FBI director. And she's not just going after him. She's going after many others as well. Kyle Seraphin also got hit with a lawsuit. August 27, 2025, the FBI agent, former, who we've seen recently in the J6 pipe bomber story, same type of lawsuit, much shorter on this one, says Kyle Seraphin is also now being sued. He fabricated a story to enrich himself. Says Kyle Seraphin is a resident of Texas. She's suing him there. And it's much the same thing. She's American, born in the United States. She's patriotic. She's so patriotic that she likes to sue people who are exercising their First Amendment rights to spread information, spread theories about things that they're entitled to spread theories about. They're allowed to do those things. You're a public figure. You're dating the FBI director. People are allowed to speculate about influence on the FBI director. They're allowed to be wrong. They're allowed to be idiots and completely wrong and way off the mark. You don't get to sue them for $5 million because you don't like what they're posting about you. She is in a long-term relationship with Cash. Posted a bunch of photos. Now, former FBI special agent, Seraphin, has a bunch of content that he creates, and he gets super thanks. They're called super chats, okay? On August 22nd, Kyle, he said something like this. Director Kash Patel has had his own little honeypot issue that's been going on as of late. So we're just going to acknowledge it real publicly, okay? He's got a girlfriend that is half his age, who's apparently is both a country music singer, a political commentator on Rumble, a friend of John Rich through Bongino, who also now owns a big chunk of Rumble, and she's also a former Mossad agent in what is like the equivalent of their NSA. Okay, just reading the lawsuit, not saying these things myself, reading Alexis's lawsuit, okay, just airing out her grievances for her. I'm not sure that that's totally because like she's really looking for a cross-eyed, kind of thickish built, super cool bro who's almost 50 years old, who's Indian in America. Like it has nothing to do with the fact that we're really close to the Trump administration. Anyway, I'm sure that it's totally just like love. That's what real love looks like. Yeah, speculating about the relationship. Now, although defendant doesn't identify her by name, never said anything. His statement is obviously about her. It's public knowledge that they're in a long-term relationship, and she is a country music singer. And so it's also unambiguous saying that he's accusing her of being a former Mossad agent. Why? He didn't say her name. Now, defendant cannot claim that this is mere rhetorical hyperbole. It absolutely is, as he actively trades on his experience as a former FBI agent. Defendant cannot even claim ignorance or negligence because he has personally met Wilkins with Patel at an event 2 years ago. And he knew that they were in a relationship at the time And when he was not the FBI director. Yeah, but so what? What does that have to do with anything? This is a long-term game. Kash Patel worked for Trump the first time and was all over the podcast circuit, and maybe a likelihood that he would come back into power at some point. So that's why you have a long-term investment. Miss Wilkins is not even Jewish, much less Israeli, and has never set foot in Israel. She is not now and has never been an agent for any intelligence agency. Okay. The notion that her relationship with Patel is some of a plot is vile, ridiculous, and he knows this. So he knowingly and with reckless disregard spread mistruths, saying she's a honeypot. Now she's suing him for this insidious claim and is also bigoted, calling Kash Patel a cross-eyed Indian. A reasonable person would understand this is not mere hyperbole, and they're trying to spread a malicious lie. At no point has he reached out. She's publicly stated that all of this is false. He knows well that she is American, not Israeli, and that he knows for a fact that it began long before he became the director. Again, it's so what? It's a long-term play. You get him in there young. The defamatory statements are defamation per se. They impute the commission of various crimes, and so now he's being sued for these defamatory statements for $5 million from Kash's girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins, because she doesn't like the implication about her relationship. We got one final lawsuit here. This one going against this person called Sam Parker, who is over here on X. He says, I'm being sued for $5 million for journalism tweets. Please contribute whatever you can to my legal defense fund and help me beat back this attack on free speech, because the FBI's girlfriend, who the FBI is defending on X, is now suing me. Here's this one. Longer lawsuit. We get the gist of it. We'll hit the highlights on this. This guy was recently also running for the Senate. Got 1.3 million viewers. And we know the jurisdiction and the claims. We know how he got in here. And here's what he posted. Sam Parker. He says, who is Alexis Wilkins, girlfriend of Kash Patel? She's a 24-year-old Christian when she met Kash, a 42-year-old Hindu Muslim, and started dating him. Now he's the FBI director. She's also the press secretary for Abe Ahmadeh in Arizona, a Syrian Muslim member of the U.S. House of Representatives from Arizona and a former member of U.S. military intelligence. Also a country music singer, works for PragerU, tight with the Daily Wire, has ties to TPUSA, hosts her own show on Rumble. Let's take a closer look. Here are some pictures that he's sharing in his reporting over on Base Sam Parker. Now, in this thread, he juxtaposed a series of statements that imply that Wilkins is an agent of a foreign government who began a relationship with Patel. Asks, is she really this talented? Is she an all-American dream girl or not? Is this organic? Let's investigate this. Calling her allegedly Christian. Talking about Israeli influence on Alexis. Talking about PragerU. Saying that Wilkins is a mouthpiece for PragerU and the Zionist agenda. And others. Next, the defendant discussed his career as a country musician. Can she even sing? Is she even any good? Big, long thread. And so she doesn't appreciate it. Also was sharing stuff about Ashley St. Clair. Maybe she'll sue too. This outrageous implication is entirely false. He's endorsed these implications. And other people said, oh, she's the honey trap. He's saying questions. Lots of questions from Sam Parker. Is she? Speculating. Don't know. Why? Maybe this is why Kash doesn't release the Epstein files. Yeah, we don't know what the reason is. So people are allowed to speculate about it. So she sues. You can see very unhappy about all the posts. Another $5 million coming out. So maybe at the end of this, she'll be $15 million richer. Unlikely. I think that all these lawsuits are intending to silence criticism about her relationship and seemingly, for whatever reason, going after people who have interesting takes on Israel. So suing people who will say that there's foreign influence there. So maybe it's not necessarily about Alexis. Maybe it's about something else. But those are the lawsuits. And of course, those are her claims that are being lodged against these conservative influencers. And these conservative influencers could use your support if you appreciate people reporting on stories and speculating and asking questions of our elected officials and people in power. Kash Patel has brought this in my opinion, into the public arena explicitly by writing this post and by screaming at everybody saying your ally staying silent. Your silence is louder than the clickbait haters, all of it. So they're rapidly responding to our information. I feel an obligation to stand up for the people who are reporting on people in power and other content creators who shouldn't have to worry about $5 million lawsuits. And I'm not for defaming people. We try our very best not to do that here. But speculating, asking questions, connecting dots that are uncomfortable for other people, that's part of the game. Don't date the FBI director if you don't want to have people ask questions about your relationship with the FBI director. And Cash and Rapid Response now arming themselves up to come out and repeatedly attack. You can see we talked about 5 people on the right on this show: Kyle Seraphin, Sam Parker, Elijah Schaefer, Tucker Carlson, Miranda Devine, coming out swinging against all of them, which feels very strange since many of these people are on the side of the team that helped get Trump into power that resulted in Kash Patel getting his position. But just to show you, these lawsuits are ridiculous. We had the same argument when Hunter Biden was doing it. Another public person, not a government official, not somebody in any official positions, but he was the president's son. She is the director's girlfriend. When Hunter was suing everybody for spreading around his wiener from the Hunter Biden laptop, a lot of pushback on that. You can't silence us with your lawsuits. We're allowed to say these things. We're allowed to make claims and make speculative connections. That's America. That's the First Amendment. We stand by it. And remember, Hunter did the same thing. Hunter was suing Garrett Ziegler. Hunter Biden was suing Fox News. In his case against Fox News, it was dismissed because Hunter withdrew it ultimately. And Fox News said, we'll pull down the images, but we made claims about you that we stand by. And Hunter sued and lost. Somebody else brought major claims. So remember when the New York Times said that Sarah Palin was responsible for mass shootings, she sued for defamation. She said there's actual malice there. She lost. Couldn't be successful on that because she couldn't prove actual malice. It's a very high standard. And so if these lawsuits are probably not going to meet the standard, if the New York Times cannot be found liable for defaming Sarah Palin, if Hunter Biden can't find Fox News liable for these, how can Alexis Wilkins get success in her lawsuits? Or is that what this is even about? Or is it just an attack to try to silence people from talking about these issues because it makes them very uncomfortable for whatever reason? And there's, interestingly, another subtext in many of her lawsuits. It's anti-Israel criticism for whatever reason. If it's damages and defamation about her, allegations relating to her being an agent, I can understand that. But then she spends a lot of time defending their statements about some other country, which feels a little bit strange to me. So the FBI is, I think, in the process of floundering and crashing and burning in real time for whatever reason. They have a stupid new account that they should delete immediately. And the account is attacking people on the right. Cash's girlfriend is attacking people on the right. Both formal FBI responses are calling anybody who questions them liars and smearers and all the things. And it's insulting. It's offensive. I think that they've got much bigger fish to fry on the other side of the political aisle. But for whatever reason, they're arming up against our side. And people like Miranda Devine, they're saying, if you can't handle the truth, Miranda, if this is too hard for you, you're going to learn eventually, in their ridiculous post. Let's take a look at what that one said, just to be clear on this. Here's what they said to Miranda. Have they ripped on any conservatives today? No, I guess not. But to Miranda, hey, Miranda, if posting the truth bothers you, brace yourself. We're just getting started. Maybe she'll get sued by Alexis too. Maybe we all will. We'll all just get sued by Alexis. It'll be like a field trip to the courts. So, of course, we're going to keep our eye on this. The FBI, we want to see do better, honestly. We were rooting for Dan and Cash, but when they come out and they start attacking us for asking questions about them, honestly, they don't deserve an ounce of support until they correct this. So we'll keep our eye on it. Thank you for joining and subscribing as we do. All right, we got one more update, my friends, and then we'll hear from you. We're going to the Charlie Kirk case. We've got a new order on this. And let's cue that up right here. Charlie Kirk trial. We are now moving forward towards a closure hearing. Remember, we've been battling about public access to this case and to this trial. This is a filing here in an order coming from the judge, Judge Tony F. Graff, specifically about public access and what's going to be happening next in this trial. The judge, you recall, is this guy right here, Judge Graff. The case is against Tyler Robinson, the alleged Charlie Kirk assassin, who is now being prosecuted. And we had the media last week submit a filing into the court saying, hello, we need access to the secretive hearings and proceedings and transcripts that you're having because we have a public right to know. They submitted that. The defense has now responded. And here is what Tyler Robinson's people are saying in response to the media saying we want more access. Here's the filing. They write, all right, Judge, the defendant is now here. We're responding to the request from the media. The defense saying this: Mr. Robinson does not object to providing the notice that's required by the law. Okay, if we're going to lock the hearings down and kick the press out, the defense is saying we know there is a law, we comply with that. However, the requests made by the media are overly broad. They're way too burdensome, and you should strictly interpret these notice requirements because they can get access to the files online. Now, the media said when they came in, we want notice of and to be served with any petitions, motions, or request to seal. We want anything that the news media is doing. We have anything that the court is doing. The news media should be afforded an opportunity to be heard and to make argument to the court prior to any such closure. And they said, we can't do that. The rules don't want us to give expansive notice requirements to alert the media when we're doing stuff in secret. First, the intent of the rule is about access. Okay, we don't have to notify them because they can go get access after it's happened. In this context, court record is defined as a record prepared, owned, or received by the courts. And when a motion comes in, we'll follow the rules. But you should strictly interpret the rules, meaning we do not have to give notice of motions about limitations on electronic media coverage. Okay. Media says, please notify us if you're going to limit electronic media coverage. They say, we don't want to, we shouldn't have to. This court may terminate or suspend electronic media coverage at any time without prior notice to the media. They're setting the rules. If the judge finds that electronic media coverage is no longer appropriate, so we want to kick the cameras out. Therefore, don't require us to give notice to the media. We don't want the media to have a say in locking down these proceedings. Second, Mr. Robinson acknowledges, the shooter, allegedly, that the Utah Supreme Court precedent advises that notices and requests to close court proceedings be given to members of the media who've made written requests for this. And so to protect against any potential claims that notice was not given, the court encourages the party seeking disclosure to serve advance notice. And all we can do is just file. Okay, as soon as we file any motions, they'll have notice. So don't make us give the media notice. Make the media monitor the docket. And as soon as documents are filed, they'll get the notice. We don't have to give them more information. Now, the United States Supreme Court has also said that the press and general public do have a constitutional right of access to criminal trials under the First Amendment. You're damn right about that. The Utah Supreme Court has also said there is a presumptive right under Article 1 for significant access, but this right is not absolute. And while criminal proceedings and open proceedings give assurances of fairness to both the public and the accused, there are some limited circumstances in which the right of the accused to a fair trial might be undermined by publicity. For example, Utah Supreme Court has said that allowing blanket inspection of exhibits might hinder the process. And so as the court considers any request by the media about the court classification or closure motions, okay, both sides are trying to close this up. Prosecutors are, the defense are. Media is trying to wedge themselves in and say, please don't allow this to happen. It is critical that this court consider the realistic likelihood of prejudice to Mr. Robinson's right to a fair trial. This is such a scam. Okay, I'll explain why in a minute. To preserve a defendant's right to a fair trial, trial courts have affirmative constitutional duties to minimize the effects of pretrial publicity that is prejudicial. Okay, tell that to Derek Chauvin, all right? Tell that to Kyle Rittenhouse. Tell that to Donald Trump. Tell that to the J6 defendants. Trial courts must be especially vigilant to guard against any impairment of the defendant's right to a verdict. In doing so, the Supreme Court has encouraged trial courts to take steps to protect the process from outside interferences. Okay, and just to be clear, this will be a jury trial, and at the jury selection called voir dire, they can ask questions to disqualify the bad jurors, just like happens at every trial. Did you see any of this in the news? Did you read any articles about this? Where do you get your news from? What do you read online? What communities are a part of? Who has texted you about this case? Oh, nobody has? Great. You have no pre-trial prejudice because you know nothing about it. Come on into the jury. Happens every trial. Happened in Derek Chauvin. Lots of pre-trial publicity for him. They still selected a jury. How'd they do that? The state of Utah is seeking a death penalty against Robinson. Okay, so what? It's either fair or it isn't. It doesn't make it have to be more fair. It has to be fair. Nobody's undermining that. By the way, nobody wants Tyler Robinson to be unfairly convicted. Like if the guy didn't do it, we're not like, well, we have to convict him, you know. We want the actor. I think he did. All the evidence says he did, but we want to have transparency in the process. All participants in this proceeding have a duty to ensure that Robinson receives a fair trial and a reliable penalty proceeding. This may at times necessitate closure or filings being marked private. And so we're going to conform with the rules, but anything more than the rules, including closure notices that we don't even have to tell the media about, we want you to enforce, signed by the defense team in the Tyler James Robinson case. Now, the judge came out with an order, and we're marching towards a closure hearing. So hopefully this judge keeps this thing open, man. I'm going to be very upset if he doesn't. But he says the following. Charlie Kirk case, Tyler James Robinson says, all right, the rules in Utah, they provide that court records are public unless otherwise classified by this rule. There is a presumptive right to access public court records. They're saying just the files. However, the public's right to access is not absolute. The rules allow a party to file a motion to classify a record as non-public. When a motion to classify a record has been filed, the party filing the motion must serve the motion on any representative of the press who has requested notice. Now, the court got requests from a lot of people. Salt Lake Tribune, Jessica Miller, St. George News, AP, Fox 13, CBS, CNN. They all came in as the media interveners. They all said, you guys can't lock this down. Like, this is ridiculous. Because even the prosecutors were agreeing and doing stuff in private. Says you have to notify us if you're going to classify and make things private. The court has also received requests from Deseret News, Deseret Digital Media, and many others for notice. Now, the parties filed a joint motion to order a transcript of the hearing and classify both the transcript and the audio as private. Okay, there was another hearing on October 24th that I don't believe we got to see anything about. Yeah. What a bunch of scammers. Yeah, this case is really wild. So remember, we're keeping logs of all the things here. These are all of the court appearances that we knew about. Initial appearance, 9/16, the only time we saw the dude on camera. Then they shut the camera off at the 9/29 waiver hearing on YouTube. Then they shut the camera off a month later at the 10/27/2025 hearing. Didn't even hear from the dude. Don't even know if he's in the proceeding. All locked down. And we now know, according to the judge, that there was another hearing 3 days before the October 27th hearing on October 24th that nobody knew about. The parties filed a joint motion, so the defense and the prosecution, to order a transcript of the hearing, so they have it for their cases, and to classify the transcript and the audio as private. Joint motion. Prosecutors are agreeing with the defense to keep this thing sealed. Private, you can't see any of it. How come? Why would the prosecutors want to do that? This is a motion to classify. Do they have classified material? I thought it was Tyler Robinson, pretty clear, pretty clear as day. What is there classified information that's going to be harmful that the jury is going to be prejudiced by if it comes out. This is a motion to classify. We'd like to see what the motions are. Don't need the classified info, but what's the motion? To close a court record that is subject to the process right here. Okay. So saying if you want to close this, then we'd have to provide notice. So the parties are now ordered. This judge is doing a good thing. The prosecution and the defense want to lock it down. The judge is saying you have to notify the media. They've requested notice, notify the media and send them your motion. And then they can be a part of it. The court orders that all future motions to classify a record must be served on representatives of the press. Great job. The parties filing the motion is responsible for service of the motion. I got to get my name in there to get my hands on those documents. The court is required to hold a closure hearing in the following circumstances. When a motion or petition to close a record is contested, the media will contest. When the press has requested notice of closure, or when the court decides public interest in the record warrants a hearing. Because the press has requested notice, the court will now set a closure hearing at the earliest date available for all parties, including representatives of the press, to be present. The press has a right to be heard at this hearing. Representatives of the press may file their respective positions in writing before the hearing, if desired. In deciding whether to classify, the judge can look at anything, any relevant factor or policy signed on the 10th day of November by Judge Tony F. Graff. And this is not a ruling as a motion on the media interveners. That motion needs further briefing. The court will not rule on that until we get a request for a decision. Email to everybody. And yeah, so a lot of this, the prosecutors are also trying to bury a lot of this stuff under seal, playing a little secret patty cake game. If the press had not moved to intervene, we may not have known about any of this stuff. And we're happy the judge is acting accordingly. So we're going to keep our eye on this, but a closure hearing, the judge said, will be coming soon. As soon as we get dates from the media, we'll decide how much of this can be locked down or not. And I want that 1024 audio and that 1024 private transcript that they're all trying to cover up. The other hearings were on the record and the public could see it. Now they're covering this one up. So for whatever reason. So shout out to the media for once digging in on that. We're going to keep our eye on this one. Obviously, wait for the dates to get set and see if this case gets locked down even further. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends. What a beautiful day it has been. Thank you for joining us. Happy Friday. Members, stick around. We're going to do an after party as soon as we're done here. Hang out, see what else you have to say. See what your thoughts are on Cash and Alexis, I guess. And what else is happening out there. But before we get into that, let's see what you have to say about all of this and more. If you're just joining us, quick recap. We talked about a lot of good things today, including a Comey bombshell email that is now dropped that shows he knew exactly what was going on with the Hillary thing and how they got their hands on 600,000 deleted emails from Hillary that we never saw much of in the aftermath. So we read through several filings there. We got responses from the DOJ on James Comey's attempts to dismiss his case. Lindseay Halligan responded to many things there. Then we talked about the FBI and their new stupid, dumb account called the FBI Rapid Response Account that's now attacking Miranda Devine and Tucker Carlson and calling people idiots for asking questions of our corrupt FBI. And they're out there doing that, I think, digging themselves way deeper into a hole to add insult to injury. Then you've got Kash Patel's girlfriend, who Kash Patel is coming out and defending on the internet. Don't know if he's advising her on her lawsuits or what, but now she's suing a bunch of conservative influencers for things that she didn't like that they said. And those lawsuits are all moving their way forward. His girlfriend wants $15 million from people who are speculating about her connections to Kash, which they're allowed to do. So we'll, of course, see about that. Then we talked about Charlie Kirk and the locking down, the closure hearing that is coming up. Media intervening to try to make their position heard, and we're glad to see that happen. And so now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. Happy Friday. I hope your week was amazing. Hopefully you accomplished every single thing you set your mind to, and you're excited for a lovely restorative weekend. Do you guys feel it? Feel that right in the air? You feel it coming in? That's Friday, baby. Nicolas Cage Con Air. Great film. What's one of his lines in there? Put the baby back. Something like that. Something in there. Great film. Have to watch that again because I don't have a good line from that one. Leonard. Rob, are we ever going to see any of these Dems in jail where they belong? I mean, honestly, Leonard, I hope so. We need justice. We want criminals to be facing justice. But I've got my doubts about it. It's like, we'll see. I mean, we got statutes of limitations coming up, and I don't have a lot of confidence in our law enforcement entourage right now. I hope so. What's up? Libertarian Penguin. Wow. What a nice libertarian penguin. What a nice dono, Libertarian Penguin. Thank you for that. Where do penguins live? In the Arctic? Not a lot of rules up there. Not a lot of government up there. Thank you, Libertarian Penguin, for the nice dono. Trino Galaxy says the FBI rapid response comes off as insiders trying to make the administration and their efforts look bad. That they may have official support is bad. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I was irked about it yesterday, and then I got off the show, and then they were dunking on Miranda Devine like the nicest woman on the planet. Bucky's is Rome. The Republicans had a once-in-a-generational chance to make real changes and blow the corruption and crimes of all the agencies wide open. Instead, we get 600,000 Chinese students, Indians by the thousands, and 50-year mortgages. I hope you're all prepared for decades of Democrat rule because the Republicans blew it and the window is rapidly closed to do anything meaningful in Congress with the election cycle about to ramp up. And it's like, I totally agree. I mean, as it relates to today's show, FBI, we were hopeful would start to, get a handle on these things. And they just, their latest solution is to combat the right. So what does that mean? What does that mean? The FBI already combated the right. We already have a disgusting taste in our mouths from the last FBI. When they censored us, when Elvis Chan was interfacing with the social media companies, when the White House, Rob Flaherty, was emailing social media companies and FBI agents, take this down, take this down. FBI put pressure on them. Social put pressure on them. Hiding the Hunter Biden laptop. Like, we've already been censored by the FBI, okay? Many of us. We don't need to have the FBI director's girlfriend now suing people to censor them. This old guy says, it's embarrassing the FBI couldn't just do a simple Google search. Most of his 12 or so accounts are registered in his name. Duh. No, instead they want to say, we didn't lie to you. Okay, well, can you help answer the questions? That's kind of the reason you're there. It's like they just want to pick up the ball and just start from right now. Like you inherit the FBI and you're only responsible for everything from this day forward. And like, you're not responsible for anything else that happened. And if anybody asks about it and your failures from those prior things, you then attack them as spreading lies or smears or whatever. It's ridiculous. Bucky's is Rome says, no one in DC is going to do anything to save America or the Constitution. Indeed, Trump just replaced illegal immigration with importing legal immigrants who hate America. Where I live in Western Kentucky, all the gas stations are owned by Indians. All the Americans were told by the banks their credit was too bad to open a business. I'm done with both political parties and Trump. Yeah. My politics now. My politics in 2016. My politics now. Yeah. Well, I got to say, the FBI and the DOJ are not bringing a lot of endorsements out of many people on our side, especially when they're attacking people on our side. It's sick. Leonard, what happened to those thousands of hours of J6 video that Tucker was supposed to release? I don't know. Was he supposed to release those? I mean, I wouldn't put that on Tucker personally. I think the FBI should do that since, they're the FBI. I think the J6 subcommittee should do it. Our government should do it. It's the government. So I don't know. I don't know what happened with Tucker, but it's not his responsibility. He's just Tucker. And he's doing more on the Butler thing than we've ever gotten from Cash and Dan in their last 9 months. And I'm excited to watch that. Bucky's is Rome. I'm a combat vet who spent 29 years starting with 9/11. Thank you, sir. Until I got too many injuries to keep doing it. And I sometimes almost cry because I see my small towns here die. Foreigners move in, crappy Dollar Generals. I know a lot of people like the dollar stores, but it's a bad sign of our society. And Walmart's destroying local grocery stores and small businesses. The farmers die. The farms get auctioned off to developers, often foreign owned. It makes me really sad and really, really angry. Me too, Bucky's, man. Shout out to our vets, our combat vets, Buckies. It makes me sad. That's why we are here every day screaming so hard, because I do not want that to happen, man. We have to save our country, even when our dumb FBI are, wasting their time. Hey, good luck, Rick D, to my nephew, Eric Roberts, who is playing in the International 10-Ball Invitational starting today. One of only 16 players worldwide who was invited. Damn, that's pretty dang good. 16 out of like 8 billion? It's pretty dang good. What is the 10-Ball Invitational? I had some, inappropriate jokes there. Oh, it's pool. Okay, so like, table pool. Dang, that's awesome, man. Good luck, Eric Roberts. Go out there and win it, baby. We are sending you victorious energy. Go out there and get it. Leonard, what's up? In the amazingly few pictures we have of Crooks, he looks like a dork who can't even tie his own shoes. Yeah, but was able to evade Secret Service, FBI, local cops, get onto a roof and take a shot at the incoming president. Crazy, Leonard. We want some answers. Hey, what's going on? This one coming in from Tasadaka. Yeah, definitely okay. Yes, we are so very thankful for everyone who has helped. I've been very humbled by the generosity. It's hard to ask people for help. I suppose that's why Jesus said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Totally. Yeah, it is. We are truly grateful for everyone's prayers and assistance. So they've got a Give, Send, Go over here. GiveSendGo.com/prayer for pops in the house. If you are feeling generous, you want to support an amazing member of our community, Tasadaka, who's been here a long time. Prayer for pops, GiveSendGo.com. And we appreciate you supporting them and their family. B-Man, does anybody else think in all the pictures of videos of Thomas Crooks look fake big time? There haven't been many of them. Yeah, there haven't been many of them. I think I have not watched Tucker's. He just released it this morning. I haven't watched it yet, but I think he found his YouTube channel. We never saw any of that. FBI apparently doesn't know how to use the internet. Libertarian Penguin, in addition to standing on sloped roofs. Libertarian Penguin. Hey, amazing. Good to have you, Libertarian Penguin. We're going to debrief here, hang out, have some members only time. We're looking forward to that. Always a good time. We can debrief and, kind of chill out a little bit. We got this from G-Men. $5 million is the exact amount he'd have if he liquidated all his assets. I wonder how they got that number. FBI resources? Yeah. And I didn't check. Does each suit have the same people representing her? If so, is each one's Cash's firm? Let's take a look. Yeah, it's a good question. And is it the same lawyer in all of these? It's not cheap. It costs money to file a lawsuit. Jason C. Greaves. So let's see what it cost in, where's this one? Southern District of Florida. Filing fees, $405. Okay, so that lawsuit was $405. Here's another one. And that was by, what did we say that dude's name was? Jason Greaves. Let's check this one. This one, Jason Greaves. So I think this is the Seraphin lawsuit. Let's see what the filing fee was in Texas. $405. And then we've got the final lawsuit. And this one filed in Utah. $405 filing fee. So we're over, about $1,200 in filing fees. And let's see if this is also Jason C. Greaves. Let's see. No, this one's from Ammon Clemens because she's the lawyer there. Jason C. Greaves, he's not licensed there. So Prohoc Vice incoming, but it's the same law firm. So yeah, same law firm, basically the same lawyer. He had somebody else sign off on it. All going after people on the right who are saying certain things, but also have a certain political disposition against the country out there. I didn't check. It looks like, yep, it's all the same dude. G-Man says, this is exactly what a real honeypot would do. Yeah, we're not saying that she is or anything, but if you were a honeypot, wouldn't you deny it? Doesn't her working for PragerU, not sure the spelling, also bring her into the public view? Yeah, I think she's absolutely a public person. So you need actual malice. You have to say, acting with reckless disregard for the truth. Is it reckless to not believe a person's cover story if that's what you think it is? Like, you can reasonably believe that that person is a foreign agent or acting with, not good intentions. And if you think that it's a cover and you genuinely believe that, How is that knowingly actual malice? How is that, a reckless disregard for the truth? She claims the truth is one thing. We claim the truth is another thing. Speaking on behalf of the defendants. But it's a little bit more complicated. So what I actually think is that it's ultimately meant to just chill people from talking about her. But of course, we're not going to play that stupid game. So we'll talk about it. Milan, doesn't her working for PragerU bring her into the public view? Yeah. I mean, PragerU, she does a podcast, does a Rumble thing, sings at stadiums and all sorts of stuff. So, man, I don't know who this person is, but Sassy Mood is here. And that is a heck of a move right there. Good for that little girl. Says here, Just Rhonda. What's up, Just Rhonda? Thank you, Just Rhonda, for bringing in 10 new membos. Don't Be Hating is here. Design Rhythm. We got Mr. Trump Train. Indy Andy 4C. The Batman is here. Steel Toe is Ricado's fluffer. Shout out to Nick Ricada, man. How's Nick doing? Evie Loves You. Be Inquisitive. Vincent Martin. Amazing Disgrace. All gifted membos courtesy of Just Rhonda. Yeah, Doan says, it looks like Tyler Robinson wasn't meant to survive 9/10. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, you take him out, and then you don't have to have a whole trial, just like Thomas Matthew Crooks. And there's, all of the tension on the Thomas Matthew Crooks case has been evaporated, okay, because there's no ongoing case. Tyler Robinson, now, at least we've got documents, and they're trying to lock that down. So we're going to hold the tension on that one, too. Yo Mama, what's up? Man, we were doing Yo Mama jokes on a member stream a little while ago. Here's a couple that we remember. Yo Mama so fat, her belt size is equator. Yo Mama so fat, she sat on a rainbow and made Skittles. Those are some good ones. Yo Mama. Hey, Patel called us conservative anarchists before. When questions about TR and Soul Shooter, Patel labels us keyboard anarchists. I don't appreciate that at all. I don't appreciate being condescended to by our FBI. Trump must rethink Patel as FBI director. FBI called MAGA conservatives extremists. We aren't safe with Patel. No, and apparently if you even ask a question of the FBI now moving forward, you're like smearing them or something. Like, grow up. Jay Marino, the legal standard for perjury should be, would your mom think you lied? Well, then you would never get convicted, right? I never had sexual relationship with that woman, even if my DNA is on the dress. And you wonder why people hate lawyers in the judicial system. No, I don't wonder. I know exactly why people hate lawyers. I agree with many of those reasons. I do. It's like, oh, these friggin' lawyers, man. Gosh. It really is a lot. I know we're complicated people. The legal standard for if your mom was your judge, then your mom would say, oh, he would never lie. Robbie, he would never lie about anything. And it's true. I wouldn't. I had a good mama and I got raised like a good boy. 127 Gold says Tucker was a Fox employee when he received the J6 tape. So they are now Fox News property and Tucker has no access. There you go. Well, again, it's not Fox's responsibility. Why is our own government not giving us the documents? Like, why does Tucker have to break it? Why does Miranda Devine have to break it? Are they going to come after, Matt Taibbi too? For unveiling all of this other information about the FBI colluding to censor us and the Twitter files and all this stuff? Like, what? They're going to attack us for calling them incompetent? Probably. I mean, based on their standard, based on their own statements. It's really, really pathetic, to be honest with you. And I haven't been this mad in a while. Maybe I should have been, but it's insulting. It's insulting. It's in addition to being not true, it's just directly insulting to some of the people who are the biggest supporters of these people. Tucker Carlson has actively defended Dan Bongino. People coming after Dan, saying, we don't think Dan, is doing a good job, whatever. He's like, I think I can trust him. Right? I know him. I trust him. I've sat down with him. And then the FBI's like, you're a liar, Tucker. Stop smearing us. Okay. All right. You guys want to do this on your own then without any support from people on the right? You want your girlfriend to go sue people who have different opinions than you guys do? You don't like their commentary? Okay, that's great. We'll see how it works out for you. And when you keep that up, you've already lost the independents. You've already lost the left. And now you're actively coming out and attacking the right. And you think that you're going to have your agency return to credibility status with that strategy? Not going to happen. Jenny D says, Rob, very disappointed with your take on this. You don't get what is going on with the enemy trying to destroy Cash via his innocent girlfriend. I don't understand it. I'd like it if you could explain it to us. How is the enemy trying to destroy Cash? Seems like Cash is destroying himself. Very disappointed with your take on this. That's okay. You usually are on the ball. Maybe you need coffee to wake up. No, I'm good. I've got my coffee, Jenny D. We're good. We're loaded. My take was amazing. Sorry you disagree with it, but we're loaded. We're jacked on this. FBI's girlfriend shouldn't be suing conservative influencers, and Cash shouldn't be using the FBI account to defend her publicly, calling anybody else liars and smearsters. Says nobody in the Trump administration should allow their enemies to defame them without fighting back legally. It's not defamatory to ask questions about the FBI director and to have political opinions on a foreign country. Trump won billions with their lies. They went after Hegseth, Tulsi, JD Vance, RFK. Now it's Cash's turn using his innocent girlfriend for their vile propaganda. So who's they? The conservatives are? Like Tucker Carlson is? Miranda Devine is? Cash created a whole FBI account and is calling Miranda somebody who can't handle the truth. That's the FBI. That's Cash and Dan. So is Miranda coming after them? Is Tucker coming after them? And you might disagree with the statements in the lawsuits, but they're allowed to say those things. Ugly speech is allowed in America. So we're going to see what her lawsuits look like, but no, I don't think that they tried to destroy Trump this way. They are not conservative influencers. They are part of the anti-Trump mob who want to see MAGA destroyed. They all support Massey. Well, I think Massey's right about a lot of things. Massey's right that the FBI has done a bad job on not releasing the Epstein files. They botched that completely. So we try not to be, a team cheerleader, like one way or the other, constantly cheerleading. We want the FBI to be good. We want Dan and Cash to succeed, but they're coming out and attacking Tucker and Miranda. And he's talking about his girlfriend way more than he's talking about the J6 pipe bomber. And so we demand performance out of our government agencies. And the FBI has been pretty pathetic until my entire life. And this new development, this new direction they're going is inexcusable as far as I'm concerned. And so that's going to be our take. Jay Marino, when I was a kid, my mother thought I was lying when my lips were moving. Must have been abused and repressed. From Jay Marino. Yeah, well. What kind of kid were you? Hey, KX250 FMX. Chank and the Young Turks are going to have a blast with this one. I know I am. The first major issue of the Rabid Response Team will forever be memorialized as a gossip article in 17 magazine regarding some hookers over saying nasty things about his girlfriend. She's doing her job, sabotaged the FBI from the inside using caches to hook him. Fang's very meticulous patience. It's business. Here a little something from my tariff rebate. Thank you for that, KX250 FMX. And again, I want to be clear. I'm not saying she's a honeypot. I've not seen any evidence of that. But, this is America. You're allowed to speculate about. People said the same thing about Mitch McConnell and his wife from China and all sorts of stuff. And if his wife sued, I'm not a Chinese asset or something. I'd say, get out of here. So I think there's other people to go after who should be much bigger targets than conservative podcasters on the internet. She can make a video. She's a podcaster. She can respond on the internet, respond to it, get the own clicks by denying it. Instead, she's suing people. And I think there's probably a little bit more to those lawsuits. Doggone it. The FBI still protects their own, still crooked from Doggone it. Good to see you, Doggone it. Thank you for sending those in. And so, my friends, it has been a beautiful time, a beautiful day here. Happy to have the disagreements on Cash and Dan, but we want to see performance from them. We want to see actual deliverables on the things that we're delivering. If they want to do rapid response, if they get us all the information and everything's humming on a just a nice track over there, then they can do whatever little stupid rapid response things that they want. But Tucker has brought more to us about FBI corruption than the FBI has. Tucker has done a better job. Miranda has done a much better job than they ever have on the Hunter Biden stuff, and Cash and Dan have been in there for a long time. So don't attack our people. And your first attacks were on them. on the same day that there was Epstein lies spreading around all over the place that the FBI was complicit in. They should have been responding to those things, and they didn't. So it tells us everything we need to know about what this account is and where it's going, and I do not appreciate it. I do not appreciate it at all. And we've been pretty big defenders of Dan and Cash here for a long time. Do they know about this? Who is on that account? Who is approving these things? I don't know. But Dan sounded a lot different about this story when he was not the deputy director and he was in there talking to Chip Roy about these things. And then suddenly, trust me, Epstein didn't kill himself. Okay, so we got it. All right, so my friends, thank you for that. I hope they have a course correction on this. I hope they delete that account and apologize to Miranda and to Tucker. They won't, but they should. But now, my friends, it is members only after party time. Before we wrap it up on this day, on this early stream, we would love to have you become a member and come join us on the members only after party, because we're going to have some fun. We're going to debrief, see what else you have to say about this, take some additional comments, and have a good time. But we'll pause here for the day. It has been an amazing week. If you haven't subscribed already, we'd love it if you would, because we want to see you back here when we come back here. Membos, we're going to have a members only stream tomorrow. And Alexis, my beautiful wife, is going to be joining us. We've got some interesting things that we want to talk about with you about the future here, what we're doing. And so we're going to debrief that tomorrow on the members only stream. If you want to come join us on Saturday, she'll be joining us about halfway through, and then we'll get into it. And we're excited about it. So can't wait to share that with you. But we'll pause here for the day. It has been a beautiful week and a lot of fun. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thanks for the memberships. Thanks for agreeing to disagree on some of these issues. We want a better America, all of us. We want people to perform well. And that's what we're working on. So sometimes there will be some disagreements, but it's all, I think, in furtherance of a stronger country and a little bit of friction. Not bad. All right. So we'll pause here on the day, my friends. Big thanks to our amazing mods and meme smiths who mod the fort down for us and keep things nice and orderly around here. We want to thank John in the house. Donut Mind Me. We got Muffin Rando, K-Bean, Carrie B clipping for us. Thank you to Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger on Rumble, G-Gum, Just Rhonda, and Elliot modding the fort down for us. Keeping things nice and orderly around here. Wow. And Cash's law firm is leading the lawsuits. Wow. Look at that too. Isn't that great? So Jesse Banal, this is amazing, a lawyer associated with Banal Law Group, is connected to Cash Patel through the Cash Foundation, where Banal is a member of the board alongside Patel. Banal Law Group is also noted as the location for Patel's non-paid director position is the Trump Media Technology Group. Isn't that just something? So Cash is helping his girlfriend sue everybody. I wonder if Cash is doing anything else at the FBI. I mean, the prior FBI was censoring all sorts of people for COVID takes, for J6 takes, censored the Hunter Biden thing. Wonder what else Cash is doing on behalf of this woman. Rob, you're 100% correct. Tucker, Miranda, Charlie got these people into the government. Dan Bongino himself said he expects us to question the government 100%. Yes, Dan said it himself. Dan, if he was out of the FBI, would be screaming right here next to us. Cash and his girlfriend need to grow a thicker skin, totally. Yeah, the more they go after those that question them, the more guilty they look. I trust Tucker and Miranda Devine more. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. They actually have results. Judge a man by his fruits. What has the FBI produced for us other than their little stupid, numbers, which are good? We want arrests. We don't want drug addicts and pedophiles out there. But a lot of that is just noise. They are a federal law enforcement agency. Their own agency has been corrupted from inside. Until we get that fixed, I don't care about all this other stuff that they're doing. They're supposed to do all this other stuff. We want the big ones. Because as far as I can tell, the FBI was involved in the last 3 most important elections in my life, responsible for trying to rig them. Those are catastrophic problems. And they're instead, sounds like through Cash's law firm, going after people that are in the opposition. And I don't appreciate that at all. Even if I don't agree with what they were saying about her or their statements about a lot of things, they still shouldn't be sued by the FBI director's girlfriend, using the FBI director's lawyer, having the FBI director get out there and scream about this stuff on X. And I'm not even, you know, it almost feels like Alexis is a proxy for something else. And then Dan and Cash come out and they start ripping on everybody else with their rapid response account. This is a pattern that is very troubling, and I don't appreciate it at all. And honestly, it makes me want to criticize them even more. Oh, you're going to say I'm a smear merchant too? You're going to say I'm a fake news purveyor too? You're going to come attack people that I listen to, like Tucker and Miranda and others? Who's coming next? I'm not happy about it. But it's members only time, after party time, baby. So we're going to have some fun. We're going to hang out. Thank you for squeezing in those final donos and for being here. We're going to pause on this Friday. It's going to be a beautiful weekend, my friends. Thank you for joining us. And so if you want to join us as a member, stick around and we'll see you. And we'll see you in the after party. But let's get into it, my friends. Yeah, here's a question. How thick would Rob's skin be if someone went after his wife? Great response. She's not a public figure. I don't think that, if somebody came out and said like she was a honeypot or something, I think she would just come out and address it and be like, that's a funny story. And I would say, don't ever attack my wife, obviously. Attack me if you have a problem with that. But I don't think that we would just go sue everybody. A lawsuit's a lot of work. Just go start filing. Okay, so what if they say things like grow some skin? Who cares? You just ignore it. It's noise. I know who I am. She knows who she is. So any allegations about that, you just let it wash off your back. Have some thick skin, man. You're in the arena. You're in the arena of public opinion. People are going to have opinions about you. It comes with the territory, I think. And I would be mad about it. If I was the FBI director, I think I'd say, hey, honey, and they're not even married, by the way. So it's not his wife. It's his girlfriend. So if my wife's under attack and I'm the FBI director, hey, baby, we got you. We're good. We got you secured. We got, security all over the place. It's noise. People say a lot of things about me. We're going to be fine. Just relax. It's not a big deal. And we can go out, you can go out and actively defend yourself. And Cash, he's not married to her, but he could also offer a statement. I would be fine with all of those things. But he's like smearing everybody and suing everybody and then smearing Miranda. They got a problem on their hands. They have a PR big time problem. So I don't want defamatory statements. I don't want people defaming Alexis Wilkins. I want true things to be conversed about. But the conversation is how you get to the truth. And filing a lawsuit, I think, is bad. Now everybody just says, oh, that's pretty interesting. Why are you doing that? Why is Cash Patel's law firm doing that now? Interesting time. So, yeah. She might be an Italian spy. Yeah, exactly. Alexis may have married me to embezzle my mom's meatball recipe. It's being accused right now in the chat. I'm going to sue you, Duck Fat, $5 million because I'm so mad. She's not an Italian honeypot. Okay, you get the point. I'm belaboring this and indulging myself in it. I know it's not that great, but we'll pause here for the weekend, my friends. We're coming back on Monday. It's members only time. So come join us if you want to hang out for a bit longer. And we're going to have some fun. But thanks for being here. Thanks for the disagreements. And thanks for the conversation. We always appreciate that. So we'll pause here, my friends. Make it a beautiful weekend and an amazing Friday. We're coming back here on Monday to get into it again. In order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. We brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we exposed corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. 'cause together we are watching the watchers, truth on our side. Watching the watchers, we won't be denied. Watching the watchers, eyes open wide, fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share, and bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers, shining the light. Watching the watchers, defending what's right. Watching the watchers, still